Almost 1 o'clock. So sorry for a short lunch, everyone. Lots to cover today. Um, gonna take a quick roll call. I see Maria's back. Maria,
Present, thank you.
thank you, Maria. I think Jake is gone. Renee,
Present. Hello.
thank you, Renee. India,
Present, present,
thank
present.
you, Indira. Trevor,
Here.
thank you, Trevor. Jesse,
Hey, I'm here. I may need to be promoted to a panelist. I don't know if I am or not.
your camera is just off, Jesse, but you're there.
Okay, thank you.
I can see you. Yeah. And then Jose.
Present.
Thank you, Jose. KK.
Present.
Thank you, KK. Kula. I think Kula might dropped off. She might need to be promoted to the panelist. I think she disconnect sometimes for lunch. Nicole.
Present.
Thank you, Nicole. Jason.
I'm here,
Hi,
sir.
Jason. Thank you. And I am here. Just checking on Kula. Moderator, do you see Kula on the attendees list?
This is the moderator. I do not see Kula at the moment. However, I do see Administrative Law Judge and the Deputy Attorney General. Would you like me to promote them at this time?
Sure. They're gonna have to wait just a little bit because we have one more item, agenda item 7, and then we're gonna go to petitioners. So if you could just promote all of them while we're getting started so that we're ready to go. So
Okay.
with that, we're gonna get started on agenda item 7, discussion and consideration of statutory proposal to amend board's fee schedule, including proposed changes to Business and Professions Code section 4400. Members, as you may recall, during the October 2022 board meeting, we received a presentation on the fee audit conducted by Capital Accounting Partners, LLC, including findings and recommendations. We also discussed and voted to pursue a statutory change to adjust fee levels to address financial conditions of the board in line with recommendations included, while allowing for additional discussion on pharmacy technician renewal and pharmacist renewal, and to offset reductions with increase in facility fees. Meeting materials include a brief history of the board's prior fee increase, including for information on the last audit of fees completed in 2015. At that time, the board's authorized expenditure was 19.7 million. The board's current authorized budget is over 31 million, which is about a 57% increase. As a quick reminder, the board does not establish its authorized expenditures. Rather, this is done through the legislative process. The significant increase in authorized expenditures can be attributed to overall increases stemming from program growth, expansion of regulatory authority, and increase in costs incurred from other state agencies. Some of the largest expenditure increase include increases in state distributed costs, enforcement-related costs, and personnel. Members also included in the meeting materials is comparisons of other regulatory fees assessed by the CDPH, California Department of Public Health, Medical Board of California, Dental Board of California, and others. You will note an extremely large disparity between that the board currently assesses as an application fee and renewal fee for an outsourcing fee compared to the fees assessed by the FDA. Comparing the audit findings to this information, the fees assessed by the FDA are more closely aligned with the costs the board incurs for its regulation of such facilities. Members, I'd like to draw your attention to attachment 1 and 2 that include a summary chart detailing the new proposed fee ranges as a revised statutory language that incorporates changes requested by members. As presented, it is anticipated that the adjusted fee schedule would result in approximately 35.5 million annually in application and renewal fees. This would allow for a slower restoration of the board's fund that was recommended by the auditor than that was recommended by the auditor. Members, as we have already voted to pursue the statutory change, we do not need another motion authorizing sponsorship of the proposal. However, as we open up for member comments, I would entertain a motion to approve the proposed fees established in the draft language just to solidify everything, and I believe such action, if you believe such action is appropriate, specifically those related to the pharmacist and technician renewal. Members, I see Trevor's hand raised there. So Trevor,
So moved.
thank you for the motion, Trevor. Any
Okay.
second for Trevor? Thank
Second.
you, Jose. All right. Any other member comments?
I
Maria,
just-
go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Oh, Trevor, sorry. Go ahead, Trevor.
No, I just want to say I've been digging into the numbers a little bit on this, and I think the work done, especially with the auditor, this all makes complete sense. Basically, what we as a board are asking for with these is just to basically charge what they cost. It's pretty straightforward and simple, while also keeping the fees for the pharmacists and the techs from increasing, which I think is an important statement from the board as well. So it's pretty, again, common sense. We just want to charge what they cost. We're not looking to gouge anyone, but given that we are responsible for keeping the lights on of this organization, and just seems very common sense. So I'll be voting in support.
Thank you, Trevor. Maria?
I was just, I had a question about one of the categories because it seemed like a large increase, but as I look at some of the previous information that was provided, I guess I just wanted some clarification. And unfortunately, I didn't ask the question earlier, so hopefully the information is easily available. It's regarding automated drug delivery systems renewal, going up from $200 to almost $600 potentially, so it's almost triple. I'm just wondering how many licenses are we talking about that are not like one or two machines? I'm worried about, are we impacting, or what the financial impact would be to like maybe a pharmacy that does business with a lot of nursing homes, or what other kinds of, where they have more than 2 or 3 automated drug delivery systems. There may not be any, but there could be a couple. So I'm just curious, is there a way to find out that information as to how many automated drug delivery systems do we have for pharmacies that have more than 2, for example?
Thank you, Maria. And I would hope that Anne knows that I'm going to put her on the spot here, so I'm sure she's ready to respond to that. And if not, we can obtain that information possibly a little later, but if you're agreeable. But Anne?
Yeah, I'll have to try to work with staff to get that information for you, Maria. I don't have it.
Mm-hmm. That's fine. I just wanted to put that, I guess, on the record and to get some more information, because I would hate for this to create a costly issue where they may revert back to unsafe practices of having medications in drawers and cabinets instead of automated dispensing units, solely for cost savings if they have 4 or 5 digits of cost involved. So thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Then I'll go to KK.
Similar concern as member Maria. A lot of small, medium, and large long-term care pharmacy deploy the automatic dispensing units in various geographies to make the medication available, and having them go back to the tackle box e-kits would be a step backwards. This provides greater access to greater number of medications than what tackle box provides, plus also provides a lot of visibility and access and control of who accesses the drugs, how they access the drug, what number of items they took out. A lot more information is available for the compliance side of things. So this may limit the new proliferation of these medications cabinets. My apologies for my cell phone. But this cost may prohibit the new proliferation of the markets by the ADUs. Existing may exist, but a lot of pharmacies may reconsider about putting the machines into the new places. And another thing is, this actually provides an essential service to rural communities where nursing homes are, where pharmacies are actually 2, 3, 4 hours away. So these medications or these machines allow the nursing homes access to urgently needed medications, Title 22 medications in real time. And again, taking that out will reduce the variety and the quantity of medication available to the rural patients. So would definitely like some discussion on that.
Thank you, KK. Any other member comments? Okay, with that, I'm gonna go for public comment. Moderator?
This is the moderator. The Q&A is now open. The instructions are on the screen for your reference. If you would like to participate, click on the question mark inside of the square, typically located bottom right corner of the WebEx screen if you're logged in. And in the text field that appears, type comment into the text field and send it to all panelists. Or you can also raise your hand by hovering your cursor or mouse over your name in the participants panel, and the outline of a hand will appear. If you click on that, it will raise your virtual hand. For those who are calling in from your phone, just press *3 and that will raise your virtual hand. So I'm taking a look to see if there are any raised hands or any requests in the Q&A, and there are none. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Yes, please. Thank you, Elizabeth. All right, with the motion and second and public comment, we're gonna go for the vote on the motion. Maria, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you, Maria. Renee?
Yes.
Thank you, Indira. Indira, are you?
Yes.
Oh, thank you, Indira. There you are. Trevor?
Yes.
Thank you, Trevor. Jesse?
Yes.
Thank you, Jesse. Jose?
Yes.
Thank you, Jose. KK?
I abstain.
All right, thank you, KK. Kula is still not here. Nicole?
Yes.
Thank you, Nicole. Jason?
Abstain.
Thank you, Jason. And I vote yes. The motion passes. All right. Thank you, everyone. We're going to move on to the next agenda item. Item 8, petitions for reinstatement of licensure, early termination, or other modification of penalty as included on the agenda. We will be considering 2 petitions today. I would like to turn the meeting over to ALJ Wim van Rooyen. You're whacked. Welcome back, Judge Rooyen. I think it's 2 in a row is rare, so we're very lucky to have you back. And thanks for enduring through our meeting. So,
No, thank you very much, President O. Yeah, I've listened with interest to your matters this morning since about 10:15. But I appreciate that. All right, so we are. Let me make sure. Do we have our petitioner and our first petitioner promoted to the participant list yet, Madam Moderator?
This is the moderator. Yes, the petitioner, if you can please confirm, is that Elaine Nguyen?
Yes, I am here.
Thanks.
All right. Good afternoon, Ms. Nguyen. Are you able to just increase your volume a little bit? I just want to make sure we can hear you clearly.
Is this better?
That's a little bit better. I'm just going to ask you to speak up nice and clearly for us. And if any board members have difficulty hearing you, then we'll just deal with it then. And let me make sure, Ms. Trauma, are you with us as well, the Deputy Attorney General?
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Good afternoon. Nice to see you again as well. All right. I think we're ready to go. This is already being recorded, correct, Madam Moderator? Just want to make sure before we go on the record.
Yes, it's being recorded.
All right, terrific. Then I'll call our first matter. All right, we are on the record before the Board of Pharmacy, Department of Consumer Affairs for the state of California. We're here to review 2 petitions today, and we'll take them in the order that they appear on the agenda. The first is a petition for early termination of probation filed by Elaine Vu Nguyen, spelled in the pleadings as E-L-A-I-N-E, V-U, and then Nguyen, N-G-U-Y-E-N. This is OAH case number 2022-120066. The agency case number is 6604, and the license number is RPH 76448. My name is Wim van Rooyen. I'm an administrative law judge with the Office of Administrative Hearings for the state of California, and I've been assigned to preside over this matter today. Today's date is December 14th, 2022. It's approximately 1:14 p.m., and we are conducting this matter via WebEx. And I do believe we have a quorum of the board present based on the previous roll calls that were taken. So I do find there's a quorum of the board present. May I please take the appearance of the Deputy Attorney General?
Good afternoon. I'm Deputy Attorney General Nicole Trauma, and I'm appearing on behalf of the people of the state of California under Government Code Section 11522.
And good afternoon, Ms. Trauma, welcome. And then for the petitioner, Ms. Nguyen, I know we were informally introduced, just if you could state your name now that we're on the record, please.
My name is Elaine Nguyen.
All right, good afternoon, Ms. Nguyen, and welcome. Thank you for being here. Before we proceed, I just want to make sure I did receive written consents to electronic recording, and I want to make sure that it's still everyone's understanding that we'll be electronically recording this matter instead of using a live court reporter. Ms. Trauma, do you still consent to electronic recording?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, and Ms. Nguyen, do you still consent to electronic recording?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, wonderful. And in terms of how we will proceed today, essentially the Deputy Attorney General will go first and introduce the petition packet that was submitted in this matter, and will also provide us with a brief orientation as to the procedural history and background. After that, Ms. Nguyen, you will have the right to make a presentation under oath to explain why you believe your petition should be granted. You also have the right to call any other witnesses other than yourself to testify, and you and any of your witnesses would be subject to questioning by both the Deputy Attorney General as well as the individual board members. Today, the board is particularly concerned with your conduct while on probation, as well as the rehabilitative efforts you've engaged in. The board members have had the benefit of reading your petition packet, so it's not necessary to repeat everything that you've submitted in that packet, but you can certainly highlight or emphasize any portions you want to bring to our attention and that you deem appropriate. After the hearing today, the board will go into a closed session to deliberate and will then vote on the petition. So you won't be receiving a decision today, but you will receive a decision at some time in the future. And again, it's the board members that will be deciding the case. I'm just here presiding over the hearing. I will not be making the decisions. It's the board members. So make sure that you address whatever questions they have when we get to the question and answer session. Do you have any questions that I can address at this time, Ms. Nguyen?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you so much. All right, then I will turn it over to you, Ms. Trauma, to introduce the petition packet and provide us with a procedural history, and you can do that in whichever order you like. Thank you.
Thank you. We're here today on a petition for early termination of probation. The underlying accusation alleged that petitioner was convicted of substantially related crimes, dangerous use of alcohol, and multiple convictions involving the use of alcohol. Specifically, on November 28th, 2018, the petitioner was convicted of driving under the influence.
I'm so sorry, Ms. Trauma. Ms. Trauma,
Yes.
I'm so sorry to interrupt you. This is Judge Van Rooyen. I don't know if it was just for me, but I heard your voice break off significantly, and so I'm just concerned that we didn't capture what you said in the electronic recording. Could you restart, please? I apologize.
Sure. The underlying accusation alleged that petitioner was convicted of substantially related crimes, dangerous use of alcohol, and multiple convictions involving the use of alcohol. On November 28th, 2018, petitioner was convicted of driving under the influence of alcohol and driving while having a blood alcohol concentration of a 0.08% or more, with enhancements for having blood alcohol content of a 0.15% or more, and having a prior conviction for driving a vehicle while having a blood alcohol content of 0.08% or more. As a result of these convictions, petitioner was granted informal probation for 5 years, ordered to serve time to complete an 18-month multiple DUI program, pay fines and fees and restitution, and to comply with the other terms of the DUI probation. Her informal probation was dismissed with the court on September 29th, 2022. The accusation had also alleged as a disciplinary consideration that she had a prior citation for having a December 14th, 2016 conviction for driving with a blood alcohol content of 0.08% or more. The accusation was resolved via stipulated settlement. Effective August 28th, 2019, the board issued an order revoking her pharmacist license. However, that was stayed and she was placed on probation for 3 years with certain terms and conditions. To date, petitioner has been compliant with the terms of her probation. She reports to the board on a quarterly basis. She paid the costs in full. She paid costs associated with probation monitoring, successfully participated in the Pharmacist Recovery Program, or the PRP, and she entered transition in October of 2022. She has also identified and worked with a professional to coordinate prescription use, participated in support meetings, attended the recovery relapse prevention groups, worked with a site monitor, and provided all reports relating to her criminal probation. Petitioner is now seeking to terminate her probation early, and included in her petition packet were continuing education certificates, 5 letters of recommendation, all verified, a copy of the order for dismissal showing that her conviction was dismissed under Penal Code Section 1203.4, statements from the petitioner, FEMA certificates and information, a verification of employment, an invoice for her testing, a treatment provider discharge report from Cornerstone, verification of aftercare sessions at Cornerstone, a flyer for her guest speaker event at AA, her essays regarding the 12 steps, letter of recognition from the Emergency Medical Services Authority, a certificate of recognition from Senator Thomas Umberg, UMBERG, the 2020 Woman of Distinction Recognition Award, and copies of her diplomas and certifications. I'd now like to mark as Exhibit 1 the petition packet, which includes all of the documents that I just described, as well as the notice of hearing, the agreement for electronic reporting, and the memorandum to the board, as well as the underlying decision and order. With respect to those documents, Your Honor, I filed a motion for protective order to seal certain treatment records as they contained confidential treatment information, and I understand that an order had been issued by the Office of Administrative Hearings as to those documents. I request that those be admitted under seal. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Trauma. Yes, the entire petition packet has been marked as Exhibit 1, and I actually issued a protective order yesterday pursuant to your request, and just so the record's clear, that would be protecting what's now will be Exhibit 1, pages AGO 028 through AGO 033, as well as the proposed exhibit filed with OAH, and that was signed yesterday, December 13th, 2022. With those, Ms. Nguyen, parameters, do you have any objection to admission of Exhibit 1, your petition packet with the portions protected by the protective order?
No objections, Your Honor.
Thank you, Ms. Nguyen. All right, Exhibit 1 is admitted. Anything else, Ms. Trauma?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
All right, I have just one preliminary question for you, just as it might be helpful for the board. Was there any tolling in this case? Because and maybe I got the dates wrong, but I know that the order for probation was, I think you said effective August 28, 2019, which takes us 3 years from that to August of 2022. Yet this is a petition for early termination. So I was just curious, and maybe the board has questions too. Do you know, is there any tolling in this case?
Your Honor, there was no tolling, but one of the conditions of her probation was to successfully participate and complete the Pharmacist Recovery Program. And my understanding, and I'll confirm this through questioning of her, is that the reason her probation did not expire in August of 2022 is because she is still finishing up the PRP.
Thank you, Ms. Trauma. That just resolved that timing question for me, and you can certainly explore that in questioning. I just wanted to make sure we weren't missing any tolling. All right, thank you so much. Ms. Nguyen, now is your opportunity, as I mentioned on earlier, to testify in support of your petition. Is it your desire to testify at this time?
Yes.
All right. The first thing I'm going to ask you to do is raise your right hand and I'll swear you in. Do you solemnly state under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you so much. You can put your hand down. And could you please state and spell your full name for the record?
Elaine Nguyen, Elaine, last name Nguyen.
Thank you very much, Ms. Nguyen. And again, as I mentioned earlier on, well, you don't have an attorney to ask you questions here today. So I'm just going to let you speak freely in a conversational format. Tell us whatever you would like to emphasize or expand on in your petition. Like I said, you don't have to repeat everything that's in there. You can assume that the board members have read it. But certainly there may be some things you want to point out or highlight. Feel free to do so. If there's any additional facts you want to add, you can tell us about that. Once you're done with your portion, the Deputy Attorney General may have some questions for you, and then the individual board members may have some questions for you. All right. If you don't have any questions for me, you can feel free to proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Your Honor, Deputy Attorney General, and Board. I would first like to thank the Board for allowing me to present my petition for early termination today. I understand I have the burden of establishing sufficient rehabilitation with convincing evidence to warrant the early termination. According to my stipulated settlement and disciplinary order, a 3-year probation term, I am expected to be fully reinstated by the Board on August 27, 2022, provided I complete all the terms of my probation and have been incident-free. As of today, December 14, 2022, I have been incident-free and completed all my terms of probation, with the exception of completion of the Maximus program, for which I am now in transition as of October. I hope what I provide and present to you today will clearly show my rehabilitation efforts, accountability to protect the public, and dedication to serve my community. I will begin by saying I am tremendously remorseful for putting the public at risk, but I'm very grateful for the outcome leading up to present day. If it wasn't for my disciplinary orders granted by the Board, I may have not come to a realization of my wrongdoings, addiction, reckless behaviors, and character defects. I now practice all the principles of the 12 steps of AA in all my affairs, and the ones I would like to emphasize today are discipline, awareness, and service. It is one thing to admit my wrong, but it takes discipline in developing this habit to continue being compliant over an entire lifetime. Since my probation, I have successfully met all requirements from the Board and Maximus, including completing 80 sessions of intensive outpatient program, 1 year of aftercare following the program, testing negative in all my random drug tests, and attending over 840 AA meetings over the last 3 years and 3 months. I attended weekly health support group meetings up until 2 months ago upon entering transition, and have built a strong network and fellowship with the other healthcare professionals who are also in recovery. These individuals are some of the most resilient people, and I consider them like family. I trust all of them and vouch for each person in my group. I even helped 3 pharmacists in the program acquire their current jobs. I know I can rely on this fellowship for support should I ever have an urge to relapse. In addition, my health support group facilitator is in full support of my transition and commended my recovery as mentioned in her September letter to Maximus. While I know these disciplinary terms will not be mandated on me forever, they have been embedded in my lifestyle. I take what I learned from my past mistakes and apply it to my day-to-day life. As I fully embrace my mistakes, my misuse of alcohol, my previous lack of professional judgment and reckless behavior, I also gain control over them because I am better equipped with the tools. By being mindful of my actions and my day-to-day experience, I created opportunities for self-improvement, such as how to be a lifelong learner and servant leader for the community. Examples include advancing my education for a master's degree and now in law school for a Juris Doctor degree and holding positions for nonprofit organizations. I am also a proud homeowner, for which I know would have never happened had I continued with my patterns and spending money on alcohol. It took discipline to get to where I am today, and for that I am very grateful for the lessons. In addition to discipline, self-awareness is one of the greatest gifts I received from my recovery. The tools I received from my intensive outpatient program, my health support groups, my fellowship from other AAs helped me become more aware of myself and of this disease. Like many Asian children who grew up with immigrant parents, I was never taught how to express my emotions or feelings. My emotional language was very limited, and as Ludwig Wittgenstein said, the limits of my language mean the limits of my world. My willingness to explore my emotions and sharing them out loud with others really helped me heal. Before the disciplinary actions, I did not recognize how alcohol, addiction, and codependency affected not only me, but the people I cared about most. My mother's older brother was an alcoholic who lost his first wife and child because of this disease. Both my parents had gambling addiction that led to complete bankruptcy and loss of our home when I was in my early 20s. My youngest brother had a DUI 10 years before mine, and my dad struggled with depression after the bankruptcy and my parents' divorce. But none of that registered to me until I recognized my own disease. Now with these tools, understanding and compassion for all who are struggling with the same disease, I have made efforts to bring the same awareness to my community. In the process of attending my first few AA meetings, I quickly developed a strong relationship with my sponsor, who also helped me establish and start the first Vietnamese AA meeting in Orange County. To show accountability, I held a service position and collected donations so that we can pay for our venue when we were in person. But with COVID, we were able to move from the in-person platform to online, where we now have Vietnamese participants from all over the country. At the AA meetings, I have shared my stories, struggles, and upbringing, and hope that my Asian community can see that a DUI might mean more than just bad luck. This platform also allowed the older generation of Vietnamese community to share with each other more comfortably as we spoke in our language. Similar to sharing the message to my Vietnamese community, I am also sharing the message to my pharmacy students about the implications of having a DUI. For those who are unaware, I work as an assistant professor at a school of pharmacy in Southern California. With each new class that enters the pharmacy program, I provide a presentation on DUI's collateral damage and how it causes harm, public harm. I remind the students that they are held to a higher standard and will be liable for professional misconduct, even if it is from drinking or using drugs outside of the workplace or school. I hope that the board will see a decrease in professional misconduct from our pharmacist interns and future pharmacists, because that might mean my message is making an impact. This last message I would like to share with the board is my passion for serving my community. I now realize that I wouldn't have been able to serve my community had I not been disciplined and gone through recovery. Since 2018, even before I was on probation with the board, I had an interest in emergency and disaster recovery. In 2018, I joined the California Medical Assistance Team, or CalMAT, a government agency to provide disaster relief throughout California. I've responded to California fires and COVID pandemic as a CalMAT member. I also volunteered with the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, a federal government agency, and Team Rubicon, a nonprofit organization. In addition to Southern and Northern California, I have deployed to remote and rural parts of Mississippi, Kentucky, and Florida to assist. As of April 2022, I serve as the Orange County Unit Leader for CalMAT. Under this role, I serve as the liaison between the state and CalMAT members in Orange County and organize meetings and trainings to prepare the members for future deployments in Orange County, I hope to continue my service, and this is one of the biggest reasons for my petition to early termination. I hope to serve these communities in rural areas without restriction to my license and without barriers to my travels from drug testing. With this, I humbly request the granting of early termination. I wholeheartedly believe that life used what I've done to help other people believe they can successfully begin their way of life, no matter what they've done or been through. And whether granted or not, I will continue to carry my message to others to practice the principles of 12 steps of AA and to being of service to my family, students, healthcare colleagues, citizens impacted by disasters, and others struggling with the same disease. Thank you, Your Honor, board, panel members, and other attendees for allowing me to be here today and to share my story.
Thank you very much, Ms. Nguyen. Ms. Trauma, do you have questions for Ms. Nguyen?
Yes, Your Honor.
Please proceed. Thank you.
Dr. Nguyen, from your petition, it appears that alcohol was the drug of choice. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And you were abusing alcohol?
Yes, Ms. Trauma.
About how long were you abusing alcohol?
I was using it, I probably started using it sometime in high school and throughout college and also pharmacy school, and up all the way up until my second DUI.
Okay. How do you feel about your conduct now when you look back on your convictions for driving under the influence?
As I mentioned, I am very remorseful, but I know that because of this, it led me to enter recovery, to meet the people that I have met, and to really learn more about myself. Because I realized alcohol was an issue, but it wasn't the only issue. I was definitely weak and powerless over alcohol, but at the time, I didn't want to admit that. My whole life, I had to be strong. I'm the oldest of 4 siblings. And after my parents' divorce, I didn't want to show any signs of weakness. So I didn't want to admit that I had an alcohol problem. I didn't want to admit that I had other codependency issues. And it wasn't really until I met my sponsor and the people in my health support group that I finally surrendered. And now I know that I'm not responsible for all solutions or how I can control others or how they behave.
And when was that you fully surrendered? What is the date of sobriety?
My personal sobriety date is August 2nd of 2019.
Okay. And you've had no relapses since that date?
No, Ms. Trauma.
Okay. What would you say were your triggers?
Definitely my arrogance and my...
For interrupting. I apologize. Moderator Kula is in attendance. And also someone raised a hand. I'm not sure what's going on there, but Kula, can you please promote her? Sorry, go ahead. I apologize.
Okay. Some of my triggers. So I am a people pleaser. I can't say no to others. And when we go out to any events, I am always trying to be the center of attention, to make sure that everyone enjoy my company. So that was definitely one of the things that I've recognized about myself, wanting to people please.
Okay, and how do you deal with that kind of trigger now when you're presented in that situation?
It's a lot easier to say no to people. That's one of the tools that I have learned. Like I mentioned, I can't control how other people act or how they behave. And after fully surrendering, I honestly don't really care what other people think, whether I drink or not.
What aspect of probation do you feel like was most helpful to you?
Definitely the health support group and my facilitator really allowing me to open up and share about my feelings. And I think that was one of another trigger that I forgot to mention, bottling up my emotions and not showing any signs of weakness. So that was something that I've learned and one of the biggest gifts from my recovery program.
And in your recovery program, as well as through PRP, you were required to test regularly, correct?
Yes.
Have you had any positive tests while at PRP?
I have not had any positive tests.
Okay, and you've been fully compliant with PRP?
Yes.
And you entered the transition phase in October of 2022?
Yes, that is correct.
And do you anticipate finishing the transition phase even if your probation is terminated?
As I mentioned, it does make it difficult for me to travel and help in rural areas. But if that is something that the board is one of the terms of the board, then yes. But as I mentioned, the testing does become, it's not that it's difficult, but one example that I can provide is at the end of this month, I am traveling to a rural area of Florida, and the closest drug testing site is 30 miles away. And not only do I have to find transportation there, but because it's a new place and I've never been to, it can take up to an hour before I'm seen to get the drug testing.
I understand. Your petition indicates that you attend AA weekly. Is that still the case?
It is not a requirement anymore, but so before I had to attend 4 AA meetings a week, but now it's just down to 1 for myself.
Okay, and will you continue with AA even if your probation is terminated?
Yes, definitely. I intend to continue the Vietnamese AA meetings that I helped start up.
And do you still have your sponsor, correct?
Yes.
And how often are you interacting with your sponsor at this time?
At this time, we will text occasionally, and I have been updating her with what I've been doing. So I would say at least maybe twice a month.
Okay. And do you think you'll continue to work with a sponsor even after probation is terminated?
Oh, definitely. I've attended some of her. She had a housewarming party, and we've developed a very strong relationship, and I consider her like my sister.
Now, you submitted with your petition packet essays on each of the steps that you worked. How important to your recovery was it to work each step and to write about it like this?
It was definitely very enlightening for myself and also a very important step. And I greatly appreciate Maximus having me write each one, submitting them and reading it and sharing it. Like I mentioned, all these principles are something that I will continue practicing in my daily affairs.
And you also indicated in your petition that being a Vietnamese health care professional, you said the disparity in mental health and the taboo addiction has in your culture. What sort of things have you done to address that issue?
During these AA meetings, I've shared with them stories of my upbringing and also my parents talking about how they would gamble every single day, or my uncle drinking at parties. And I think that really resonated to a lot of them because in the Vietnamese culture, we do like to hold parties, we do like to gamble, but I think them seen from a different perspective, I think it started having them question their own behaviors.
Now, you started probation August 28th, 2019, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And the reason your probation didn't expire in August 2022 is because you hadn't yet completed the PRP, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. So Maximus requires 1 year of being in transition before they grant completion of the program. With Maximus, there are different steps, and they require a participant being in the program for at least 2 years before applying for transition. But most do not get it until their 3rd year. In addition, Maximus also requires the submission of the 12 steps essays before requesting for transition. And this process can take up to a year because we are only allowed to submit 1 to 2 essays per month at a time.
I see. But just to be clear, you didn't have any time periods where you didn't meet the work requirement, which told your probation, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. Would you say that by terminating your probation early, you feel like that will open the door to additional opportunities?
Yes, I believe so. I really want to help others in rural areas with my license. As of now, I am able to still volunteer at these areas, but I'm not using my license as a pharmacist to help them. And I do believe that with my expertise and my clinical training, I can do a lot more to serve my community.
Okay. If the board terminates your probation now, what assurances can you provide the board that you won't have a relapse in the future?
I still keep in very close contact with the people from my health support group. My health support group and facilitator have an open door policy for me and others in the program. Anytime we want to join to either process, share good news or bad news, get input or feedback, we are welcome to do so. And since I went into transition and not required to go into it anymore, I have gone in twice. The last time was this past Monday where I processed with the group and shared about today's petition, which really helped me mentally prepare. I am also passionate about learning and reading from authors who struggled in the past but persevered through it. And I do yoga, running, and traveling, which are only a few hobbies that I really love and enjoy and have helped me stay sober. And I will continue doing those things that I love for a lifetime.
Thank you, Dr. Nguyen. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, Ms. Trauma. And Dr. Nguyen, I want to apologize for not addressing you by your proper title. My apologies. It's old habits die hard, but thank you so much. All right. Now is the opportunity for board members to ask questions. And Dr. O, I believe last time you said you don't want to go first. Is that correct? Is that still the case?
Yeah, sure. I like to go last. Thank you for
Okay,
remembering.
I respect the way you want to do it. No worries at all. All right, so let's start then with Dr. Serpa. Do you have any questions for the petitioner?
Thank you, Your Honor. I just wanted to thank Dr. Nguyen for her application and her package. It was very complete and easy to see all that you've accomplished. And so I just wanted to thank you for your time and wish you a happy birthday.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Serpa. Do we have Dr. Patel here still? Oh, am I correct that he has left? Dr. O?
He has left, yes.
All right, okay. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't omitting him. Dr. Barker, do you have any questions for the petitioner?
I kind of second what Maria said. Thank you for your very complete packet, and congratulations on completing all the steps. And I don't have any questions at this time.
Thank you, Dr. Barker. Next, I have Ms. Cameron Banks. Do you have any questions for the petitioner?
I do not have any questions.
All right, thank you so much. Mr. Chandler, any questions?
Yes, thank you. One question regarding on your petition you submitted in June on question 11 and question 12. Or no, it was on page 8. There were two questions. One was, are you or have you ever been habitually intemperate in the use of alcohol or other drugs? And the second question was, have you ever been or are you currently under observation or treatment for mental disorders, alcoholism, narcotic, or hypnotic drug addiction? To both of those questions, you answered no. And so I wanted to just get your feedback on why you answered no to those two questions.
Sorry, the first question, I don't remember what the first question was. Was it, have I ever used alcohol habitually?
Yeah, are you or have you ever been habitually intemperate in the use of alcohol or other drugs?
I do apologize for that, but if the question was, have I used alcohol habitually, the answer would be yes. And the other one, I have been under probation and monitoring for my use of alcohol.
Okay, so you would say that the answering no to those two questions was a typo or a mistake?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Just wanted to clarify that. Congratulations on your sobriety. I appreciate the step work that you put in there and wish you the best of luck.
Thank you, Mr. Chandler. Dr. Crowley, any questions for the petitioner?
Hi, thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, Dr. Nguyen, for coming before the board. I just had one question. You mentioned in your petition packet that it took some time to really admit and accept that you had a problem. When do you think you finally did really accept it? And was there a moment or a catalyst to make you really accept that?
Yes, I believe it took about a few months. So when I first entered the Maximus program and going through the health support group, I was very open and willing to listen to others, but I wasn't really listening to myself. And it wasn't until 3 or 4 months later when I started working on the steps with my sponsor and working that first step, which was fully surrendering and admitting that I was powerless over alcohol.
Thank you. I don't have any further questions. Congratulations on your sobriety, and I wish you luck.
Thank you, Dr. Crowley. Mr. De La Paz, do you have any questions for the petitioner?
None at this time, Your Honor.
Thank you so much. Dr. Jha, any questions?
No questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ms. Koenig, any questions for the petitioner?
No questions, but just want to say that I just appreciate the specifics of which you talked about, what you recognize as being a people pleaser, being bottling up emotions. Those are really key things to recognize, and they're hard. And I just want to commend you for the self-reflection and just the transparency. Those are hard things, and wish you the best of luck.
Thank you, Ms. Koenig. And then Dr. O, Mr. Sanchez is not with us, correct?
That's correct, Your Honor.
All right, just double checking. Dr. Thebo, any questions for the petitioner?
I didn't have any questions. I just wanted to say congratulations. And I really appreciate that you took something that is probably considered a very negative experience in your life and turned it into a positive and are using that to help other people. I think that's really admirable. And thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Dr. Thebo. And then Mr. Weiss, any questions for the petitioner?
No questions, Your Honor. I did just want to thank the petitioner. Thank you for appearing today. We know it's not easy. And thank you for your work in the Vietnamese community. As you rightly stated, the Asian community sometimes likes to withhold our feelings. And I think that going out there and being in front, helping people to express themselves and identify where they may have problems and to get past that is needed and greatly appreciated.
Thank you, Mr. Weiss. And then I think that takes me back to you, Dr. O, if you have any questions for the petitioner.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just have a couple questions, and congratulations, Dr. Nguyen, and thank you for submitting your packet so diligently. Just clarifying, I know you mentioned during your statement about what additional things will need to be completed in your PRP to complete it. Can you just describe it, what is left on it again? I'm just trying to get a clear understanding, and if how much longer also, other than 12 months about you provided.
Yeah, so the last step of the Maximus program is being in transition for 1 year. And while in transition, I do not have to attend any more AA meetings or the health support group. All that is required is the random drug testing and the monthly report with my case manager.
Okay. Are there additional financial resources that are required?
Yes. So for every drug test that I take, it's about $60 to $100 for each drug test.
Okay, and that's done how often?
Right now, it's about 4 a month.
4 a month. Okay. Okay. That is all I have for you, and congratulations. Good luck to you, and back to Your Honor.
Thank you so much, Dr. O. I just wanted to circle back, see, was there any other board member that a question occurred to them? If so, please raise your hand, either physically or with the function on WebEx. I don't see any additional questions. Ms. Trauma, anything else from you?
No, Your Honor.
All right. And Dr. Nguyen, was there anything else you'd like to add before we close the record? You're not required to add anything. I just want to give you a final opportunity if there's anything.
I just really want to thank the board for their time today and the ultimate gift of recovery. I wouldn't be here today as grateful as I am without the disciplinary actions in terms of my probation, really. This blessing in disguise allows me to share my recovery, my resiliency, and hopefully will inspire others to do so. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nguyen. Any additional documents or witnesses you wanted to present that we haven't discussed yet?
No, Your Honor.
All right, terrific. Just checking to make sure. All right, then that concludes the petition hearing in this matter. The record is closed. The case is submitted for decision, and we are off the record in this particular matter. Dr. O, I don't know if you want to proceed right to the next petition. Completely up to you and the board.
Go right ahead. We're very tight on time, so we're gonna.
Oh no, I figured. But I just wanted to ask and make sure.
Sorry. This is Nicole. If I could jump in for 1 second. I'm sorry. I'm not feeling super well, so I'm gonna drop off. But I wanted to do it cleanly between the cases.
Oh, thank you, Nicole. Thank you.
I hope you feel better, Dr. Thebo. Thank you. Nice to see you.
You as well. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right. Let me make sure, and I'm probably going to mispronounce this, so please correct me. Is this Mr. Armanias? How do I pronounce, or Dr. Armanias, how do I pronounce your last name correctly?
It's Armanias.
Armanias? Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Dr. Armanias. I also have a difficult to pronounce last name, so I figure it's always better just to ask. Otherwise, I'm going to butcher it. Welcome, and thank you for being here. And I believe you have an attorney with you. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor. Adam Brown should be promoted if he hasn't already been promoted.
Oh, yes. Madam Moderator, could we please promote him as well?
He's already been promoted. Let me double check. Adam Brown. Okay.
He's showing an attendees. There we go. Let's see, Mr. Brown, can you hear us? It looks like you are muted. I'm seeing in the participant list.
Mute. Okay,
There we
Your
go.
Honor. Good afternoon. This is Adam Brown appearing for Mr. Armanius. Hello. I hope you can hear me now.
I can hear you now. Thank you so much, sir. That's great. I cannot see you. Do you intend to have your camera on, or are you intending to appear?
I am working on that as we speak. My apologies. How is that to scare the entire crowd? There we go.
There we go.
Okay.
Perfect. Okay, great. Now we can see you. And then Mr. Armanius, or Dr. Armanius, do you have your camera on? Because I don't see you. Or are you sitting there with Mr. Brown? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm sitting next to Mr. Adam.
Terrific.
Yes,
All right.
we're in the
Because I
same
saw-
room and sharing a computer, if you will. Hopefully
No,
that's
completely
acceptable.
fine. That's completely fine. I just saw another little window for Dr. Armanius, so I wasn't sure, but we have that all clarified. All right. I think we're ready to proceed, unless you have any questions. Mr. Brown, are you ready to proceed?
We are ready, Your Honor.
All right, terrific. Give me just 1 second here. All right. All right, we are on the record before the Board of Pharmacy, Department of Consumer Affairs for the state of California. We'll take our next and last petition on the agenda today. That is a petition for early termination of probation filed by Wasim A. Armanius, and Wasim is spelled according to the pleadings, W-A-S-S-I-M. Armanius spelled A-R-M-A-N-I-O-U-S. This is OAH case number 2022-120-067. The agency case number is 6670, and the license number is RPH 59305. My name is Wim van Rooyen. I am an administrative law judge with the Office of Administrative Hearings for the state of California, and I've been assigned to preside over this matter today. Today's date is December 14th, 2022. It's now approximately 1:56 p.m., and we are conducting this matter via WebEx. I do find that we have a quorum of the board present based on the prior roll call that was conducted, and so may I please have the appearance of the Deputy Attorney General.
Good afternoon, Deputy Attorney General Nicole Trauma, appearing on behalf of the people of the state of California under Government Code Section 11522.
And good afternoon to you, Ms. Trauma. And for the petitioner, please.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Adam Brown with Law Offices of Brown & Brown appearing on behalf of petitioner Wasim Armanius.
Good afternoon to you, Mr. Brown, and good afternoon to your client, Dr. Armanius. Thank you so much for being here today. I just want to confirm I have received written consents to electronic recording, and I just want to make sure that's still the case. Ms. Trauma, do you still consent to electronic recording in lieu of a court reporter in this matter?
Yes, Your Honor.
And what about you, Mr. Brown?
I do.
Thank you very much. All right, then in terms of the procedure for this hearing, the Deputy Attorney General will go first and will introduce the petition packet and provide us with an orientation of the background and procedural history. And then after that, the petitioner will have the right to make a presentation under oath to explain why he believes the petition should be granted. As Mr. Brown knows, you obviously have the right to call your client as well as any other witnesses you wish to have testify. And the petitioner and any such witnesses would be subject to questioning by the Deputy Attorney General and the individual board members. The board today is mostly concerned, and particularly concerned with the conduct while on probation, as well as any rehabilitative efforts that the petitioner engaged in. The board has had an opportunity to review the petition package, and you can certainly assume that they have read everything, but you're welcome to highlight or emphasize any portions you deem appropriate. After the hearing, the board will go into a closed session to deliberate. I will not be making the decision. It's the board that makes the decision, so please make sure you address any questions that the board members may have. There won't be a decision today, but you'll receive a written decision in the mail sometime in the future. With that said, I will turn it over to you, Ms. Trauma, to present the background and procedural history, please. Thank you.
Yes, Your Honor. Before I start, I do see that the camera is off for Mr. Brown, and I just wanted to make sure that was intentional and not that we lost them or anything.
Thank you very much, Ms. Trauma. There we go. I just see the camera came back on. Mr. Brown, did you miss any of that, or were you able to hear everything? We just lost your video.
No, Your Honor, thank you for checking with us. I've effectively heard everything. We had a little technical glitch with my computer, so I apologize. I believe if everyone can hear me, we're on a different computer now. I hope that's acceptable and you can see us and hear us. If so, we're ready to proceed.
Thank you so much. We can hear you and we can see you, at least speaking for myself. So I think we're ready to proceed. I just was about to turn it over to Ms. Trauma to present the background and procedural history. So you can go ahead, Ms. Trauma, when you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. We're here today on a petition for early termination of probation. On October 8th, 2019, an accusation was filed against petitioner and his pharmacy, TMC number 4. Petitioner was the pharmacist in charge, CEO, president, secretary, and treasurer, chief financial officer of that pharmacy. The accusation alleged that petitioner accepted the return of controlled substance lorazepam without proper registration, failed to maintain accurate records of acquisition and disposition, failed to maintain current inventory, included unprofessional conduct involving moral turpitude, dishonesty, fraud, deceit, or corruption based on billing fraud, and furnishing dangerous drugs without a prescription. The board adopted a stipulated settlement and set the effective date as September 10th, 2020. The decision provided that petitioner's pharmacist license was revoked, but the revocation was stayed, and he was placed on probation for 5 years under terms and conditions. Petitioner has been on probation for a little over 2 years. To date, petitioner has complied with quarterly reporting requirements. He has paid about $15,000 in costs, but still owes a little over $23,000 in costs. He has paid all costs associated with the probation monitoring. He told probation for 7 months from September 2020 to March 2021 for not being able to meet the minimum work requirement. He has completed 10 hours of remedial education for each year of probation. He has completed the ethics course, and petitioner also made the $10,000 donation to a nonprofit organization. Petitioner has filed the instant petition seeking to terminate probation early, and included in the packet were continuing education certificates, 7 letters of recommendation, all of which have been verified by board staff, a declaration from petitioner, proof of completion of the ethics course, a performance evaluation, a copy of the decision in order, and a cover letter from his attorney, Adam Brown. I'd now like to mark as Exhibit 1 the petition packet, which includes the documents I just described, as well as the notice of hearing, the agreement for electronic reporting, and the memorandum to the board, and the underlying decision in order. I request that that be admitted as Exhibit 1.
All right, I've marked all the documents you just mentioned, essentially the entire petition packet as Exhibit 1. Any objection to admission of Exhibit 1, Mr. Brown?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you so much. Exhibit 1 is admitted. Ms. Trauma, anything else from you?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you so much. All right, Mr. Brown, I'll then turn it over to you to present petitioner's evidence. You can feel free in whichever order if you want to call your client first to testify or address any other matter. I leave it to you.
Thank you, Your Honor. There is one housekeeping matter I would like everyone to be aware of. We have 1, if not 2, at a maximum character witnesses who will very briefly testify as to petitioner's character. I believe they may have been standing by and logged in, but I cannot confirm that. If it's acceptable to the court, we would like to call them as soon as we can confirm they're on. So if we can confirm their presence, that would be helpful to us.
That's fine. What are their names so our moderator knows to promote them so they can testify?
Certainly. The first one is Bishoy, B-I-S-H-O-Y, last name Boctor, B-O-C-T-O-R. And the second one is Anthony Abraham, A-B-R-A-H-A-M.
Thank you. Madam Moderator, do you see those 2 individuals? And if so, could you please promote them?
Yes, this is the moderator. I have promoted both Anthony and Bishoy. If they would like to do mic checks, please.
Hi, this is Anthony Abraham.
Thank you so much, Mr. Abraham. I can hear you clearly. And then we need Mr. Bishoy, I believe, also has to.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you
you.
for being with us. And we can see you too. Thank you very much. All right, Mr. Brown, which order, I'll let you decide which order you'd like to call them in.
Your Honor, I believe I would like to examine my client briefly and then perhaps move on to character witnesses if that's acceptable to you.
That's perfectly fine. So you're calling Dr. Armanias to the stand, essentially, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, perfect. Dr. Armanias, if you could just raise your right hand where you are and I'll swear you in. Do you solemnly state under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you so much. You can put your hand down. So essentially your attorney will ask you some questions to start with, and then once he's completed, the Deputy Attorney General may have some questions for you, and the board members may have some questions for you as well. And then I'll give you an opportunity in your attorney to ask brief redirect at the end. So please proceed, Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Your Honor. I appreciate it. And thank you, board members, for allowing us to appear today, as well as to Deputy Attorney General Trauma. We appreciate the opportunity. I will be as brief as possible in the interest of time. Mr. Armanias, is it true that your pharmacist license was placed on probation on September 10th of 2020?
Yes,
And what were the terms of that probation? How long were you placed on probation?
it was placed on probation for 5 years.
Okay, and was this discipline related to your work as a pharmacist at the medicine cabinet number 4?
Yes,
What was your relationship to that pharmacy?
I was the pharmacy manager as well as the president of the pharmacy.
Okay, so in other words, you effectively owned that pharmacy?
I did.
Okay. Do you recall signing as a result of your negotiated settlement of the accusation in this matter? Do you recall signing a stipulated settlement in Board of Pharmacy case number 6670?
Yes, I do.
And I'm going to ask the board and Your Honor to turn to page AGO 19.
Your Honor, just a reminder, unfortunately, the board members don't have the documents in that way. So if you could just describe a little bit more to the pager.
I apologize, Dr. O. I didn't understand. I thought that, so the AGO markings is, I think, what Ms. Trauma placed on the bottom right-hand corner of each of the pages. So am I understanding correctly that that's not the version you have in front of you?
We do not get it that way, unfortunately, yeah.
Okay. Well, Mr. Brown, if you could just describe, I'm sure you can tell them what particular type of document in the packet, then they can find it.
That's fine, Your Honor. I apologize. I thought the board members had the Bates stamped version, so my apologies.
So did I. No apologies necessary.
Okay, very well. So we'll continue. In this stipulated settlement, which is what I'm referring to, that is a document that consists of approximately 12 pages. And Mr. Armanias, did you sign this document on June 25th of 2020?
Yes, I did.
And is that your then attorney's signature below your signature on page 12 of that document?
Yes, correct.
Okay, and in that document, you made admissions within it, correct?
Correct.
And did you admit to the truth of the allegations alleged against you at the time?
I did.
Okay, what I'd like to do now, Your Honor, is turn to the actual underlying accusation itself, if I may. And I hope that everyone has a copy of that. I would briefly like to run through the causes for discipline in the underlying accusation, provided everyone is with me. If not, please stop me and I'm happy to wait.
For the benefit of the board members, I think the accusation you'll find is attached to which should immediately follow the stipulated settlement. So it should be right after that.
That's correct. I'm going to begin on page 15 of the underlying accusation. In the first cause for discipline, the allegation, Mr. Armanias, is that the respondent pharmacy received a return of controlled substance without proper registration. Do you recall that allegation?
Yes, I do.
And do you recall the facts underlying that allegation?
Yes, I do.
And do you recall accepting a return of a controlled substance, to wit, lorazepam 1 milligram?
Yes, I do.
Did you admit to receiving that controlled substance without being a registered collector with the DEA?
Yes,
And do you take full responsibility for that error?
I do take full responsibility, yes.
What have you done since this incident occurred to ensure that this will not occur again?
Well, this was just one-time incidents that the pharmacy took one vial of lorazepam. So when the board inspector came into the pharmacy, she just found it, which was about to be returned to stock. And what basically happened, the technician took it from the client, the customer, and put it in the box for the stuff to be destructed. She didn't pay attention to what the medication was, because during that time, the law just passed that you cannot take any controlled medication back from the customer. So without me knowing, as a pharmacist in charge during that time, she put it in the stuff to be destructed. But we fixed it after that, and we put new policies and procedures. As we move forward, we cannot have any controlled substance taken back from the patient. So I had a meeting with every one of the staff, and I talked about the incidents, and we fixed it, and we made sure this will never happen again.
Okay, and are you comfortable in stating to the board today that you absolutely are sure this will not recur from what you've learned?
Yes, it will never recur again.
Thank you. So, Mr. Armanis, I'm going to turn to the second cause for discipline of the underlying accusation, which alleges a failure to maintain accurate records of acquisition and disposition. Do you recall this cause for discipline?
Yes, I do.
And did this involve a failure to record or document the acquisition and disposition of all dangerous drugs in a readily retrievable form on the premises of the pharmacy for 3 years from the date of making?
Yes.
And that is your understanding of what was alleged?
Correct.
What assurance can you give the board that this incident will not recur in the future?
Basically, I know that the board has a responsibility to protect the public, and patient care is number one priority. And by having to change the way I think about things, because the pharmacy was too busy during that time, so we didn't have the right process in terms of filing all the documents in the right place. So when we get the invoices, the technician will just put it in a box to be reconciled later. So as we move forward, I learned from that incident that even if you have good intentions and you're busy and you're trying to take care of the patient, but all the documents has to be correctly put together and all the documents accurately filed, so will be readily retrievable for any inspection by the board members to protect the public. So I learned this is part of what I need to do to make sure we comply with all the requirements to protect the public and making sure everybody is safe.
And Mr. Armanis, where are you currently working?
I'm currently working in 2 pharmacies. One is called Owl Drugs in Pomona, and the other one is in Playa Vista. It's a Playa Pharmacy.
And can you give us an idea of your work hours during the week between the 2 pharmacies?
So I work in the Owl Pharmacy for 3 days from 11 to 6. The store is open from 9 to 6, but the pharmacy department is open from 11 to 6. So I work on Monday and Wednesdays and Thursdays in that pharmacy. And Playa Pharmacy, I just joined about 3 months ago, and I work there the other 2 days. I'm not working in Owl Drugs. And this is Tuesdays and Fridays from 9 to 5, or sometimes the schedule will change from 10:30 to 6:30.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to turn now to still on page 15 of the underlying accusation, referring to the third cause for discipline. The allegation is that respondent pharmacy failed to maintain current inventory. Do you recall this allegation, Mr. Manis?
Oh, yes, I do.
Okay. And did that involve, again, failure to keep a current inventory, summarily speaking, of all dangerous drugs on the premises for at least 3 years?
Yes.
And is your response regarding measures you've taken to avoid a recurrence similar to your previous answer?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have anything to add to that answer?
Well, the whole idea of all the problem I was encountered to is lack of following through what the technician's work is to making sure everything is filed correctly and appropriately. And I learned as I move forward, I have to a little bit micromanage and get the training process in place. So I'll make sure everybody, when I leave them to do their own thing, they knew exactly what they were doing. The reason that did not happen in the first place, because it was a pharmacy inside a medical building, so it got busy all of a sudden. So I never had enough help because it was gone like from maybe 30 prescriptions to like 70, 80 to 100 in a very short period of time. So I had only one person that was working with me as a technician, and that was the reason why. So the training process is very important in a pharmacy setting to making sure everybody knows what they are doing.
And in that capacity, at this pharmacy, were you the pharmacist in charge, also known as a PIC?
I was.
And do you understand that it is your responsibility to ensure complete compliance with pharmacy law in that role?
Definitely.
Do you accept that responsibility?
100%.
And moving forward, do you accept that responsibility?
Yes, 100%.
Okay. Moving on to the fourth cause for discipline, which alleges unprofessional conduct, et cetera, regarding allegations of billing fraud. Without a great amount of detail, do you recall this allegation, Mr. Armanias?
Yes, I do.
And do you understand that it's alleged that you knowingly processed prescriptions through insurance for unauthorized prescriptions or for prescriptions for patients who did not receive medication for the period September 5th of 2016 through January 9th of 2018?
Yes, I do. It was very individual cases that the board inspector only found very few cases where the patient never received the medication. I had a signature logs for it, so of course I would not remember every patient if they picked up their meds or not, but I had a signature log that was picked up. But when the board inspector, Ms. Delane, called that patient, they said they never received it.
What have you done since this incident to ensure that this will not happen again in the future?
Well, we've always been on point, making sure day 14s are returned to stock. We make 3 calls to the patient to come and pick up the medications on time for compliance. Plus, anything that's not been rang up on the register within 14 days, we return it to stock. If I have any questions about pickup for the meds, I would call the patient myself and making sure that they picked it up. Otherwise, I have to cancel it. So I can only make sure I bill the prescription that the patient got.
Understood. Continuing on to the fifth cause for discipline, the allegation is that respondent pharmacy furnished dangerous drugs without a prescription. Do you recall this allegation, Mr. Armanias?
Yes, I do.
And can you tell us what occurred in your mind regarding this incident?
So this pharmacy was inside a medical building. I understand the patient safety is #1 priority. And to me, as well as a pharmacist, that's what I look into. So sometimes it was inside a medical building, so we had access to all the doctors. So sometimes if the patient had stomach pain, for example, and they can't take pills, we would call the doctor and change it to something that's topical, so it would not upset their stomach. So in very few cases in this allegation, the patient said the doctor said they never really had this in their charts for the patient receiving this medication. However, we did call the doctor to make sure that will never happen at this moment of a time, and the doctor approved the prescription but was never put in the chart. Moving forward, we fix it. We tell the doctor to send it electronically, so we can only fill the stuff that we receive from the doctor, not verbal, but through electronic prescription records as well.
And has this incident occurred since this accusation was filed?
No, it wasn't. No, it didn't happen again.
Are you absolutely sure that this will not recur based on your changes?
Oh, no way.
Okay.
I learned from my mistakes, and if I did something and I wasn't up to the standards with the Board of Pharmacy, self-respect is #1, plus how the board perceive what we do is my priority. And I want the board and all the members of the board to be proud of what we do, as much as I take responsibility and proud of what I do as a pharmacist as well.
And thank you. And moving to the sixth cause for discipline, this is for the respondent PIC, which was you, I assume. The allegation is that you receive return of a controlled substance without proper registration, and that refers to lorazepam 1 milligram. Do you recall this allegation?
Yes, I do.
And tell me what happened briefly.
It's the same one like what we had before, except this was for the pharmacy, not for my license.
And the same changes, remedial measures have been taken?
Correct.
Do you have any doubt that this will occur again in the future?
No.
Okay. moving forward on the seventh cause, that is similar as well as is, moving forward, to the eighth cause for discipline, which I'll focus on briefly. This is alleged against the PIC, which was yourself, and alleges a failure to maintain current inventory. This is on page 17 of the underlying accusation. Do you recall this allegation, sir?
Yes, I do.
Okay, what is your side of the story on this one?
This is the same one that we discussed earlier, except for this was for the pharmacy and one for the PIC.
Okay, so your previous remedial measures are the same as your previous answer, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. With regard to 9th and 10th causes for discipline, those have also been discussed, correct?
Correct.
Okay, Mr. Armanius, you're here today and going through a pretty considerable amount of stress and time to petition the board to terminate your probation early, correct?
Correct.
Tell us why you want your probation terminated early. Why are you here today?
Well, honestly, the only reason I'm here today because it was such a painful experience that we went through. At the beginning, I understand that the board has a responsibility to protect everyone and the public. So do the pharmacists in charge as well. And I wanted to make sure that everyone understands very well that that was not done intentional. That was something that you keep doing every day. And sometimes if the compliance is not 100% following policies and procedures, mistake can happen. I learned from my mistakes. I want every one of the board members to know that mistakes can happen, but the good thing about it is we learn from it. And as we move forward, we prevent this from happening again. So I wanted to challenge myself, make sure even if I open a pharmacy again, and I can do really good, I can follow all the rules and regulations and adhere to all the policies and regulations 100% as we move forward. So the whole idea is self-respect and self-discipline and self-image as well. And through the board, all the programs that we've been put on, ethics course and remedial education and all that kind of stuff, it made such a change in how I perceive things. Not only in terms of following policies and procedures, but a mindset change. Ethics course did change the way that you think about a lot of things, vulnerabilities. How can you, when you're inside the pharmacy, you're very susceptible to do things that you really don't think or ever that you can do. And learning your weak points and learning how to avoid this again from happening, that was the key and the best part that I learned from this experience, that everyone's susceptible. So by you avoiding the stuff that can get you in trouble and following and adhering to all the policies and procedures, laws and regulations 100%, that can be the great tool to protect you. Also, going through the probation with my probation monitor, Dr. Sell, she was such a great help, which I'm very grateful to have her on my side and learning from her so many different things in terms of all the questions that I had to make sure as I move forward, everything is done correctly and perfectly. So she was such a great help and helped me in that a lot.
Excellent. So I want to ask you just a brief question or two regarding Ms. Sill. She is your current probation monitor.
She is.
Okay, and have you kept in close contact with her?
I do all the time.
And I want to better understand your opinion of your relationship with her. Is she helpful to you in complying with probation?
Oh, definitely. She helped me to be a better pharmacist and do such a great job. And if I have any questions, that's to go, like I go to a person to make sure this is done correctly.
And do you routinely contact her with questions you have regarding compliance issues?
Of course I do all the time.
Have you done so recently?
Yes. We all the time talk about pharmacy laws and regulations. And if I have any questions, I will go to her and ask her. And she is very fast in responding to all the concerns.
So you would characterize your relationship as very helpful with her?
Yes, of course.
Okay. Do you ever have any hesitation to ask her for assistance if you need it?
No, because the whole idea is to be a better pharmacist. So if I have any questions, I will go and ask her because the whole idea, I'm trying to be better at what I do.
Very good. Mr. Armanius, I'm going to ask you a few questions about compliance with the terms of your probation very briefly. Term number 2 requires you to file quarterly reports. Have you done so?
I do that.
Have you missed any?
No, I haven't.
Thank you. Term number 9 requires you to pay the board costs of investigation and prosecution. Is it true and correct that the balance presently due is approximately $23,371?
I think, yeah, around that.
Have you remained current and on time with your payments?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Do you
Go.
foresee any problem in paying the remaining amount off if you are required to do so as a condition of terminating probation?
No, I don't mind at all.
Understood. Term 10 requires you to pay any costs associated with probation monitoring. Do you understand that term?
Yeah,
Have you complied with it fully?
fully.
Term number 13 requires that you work a minimum of 80 hours per calendar month. Do you recall that term?
Yes, I do.
And is it true that your probation was tolled from September 2020 through March of 2021 for 7 months?
Yes, that's
Can
right.
you tell us why that was tolled, please?
Well, this was during the COVID time, and it was very tough to find a job. Everybody was panicking, and social distancing was such a big deal during that time. So it wasn't that easy because all the pharmacists cared about how many employees they really have, and they keep that social distancing. I did not stop. I tried to find a job, but I wasn't able to. But I also looked into alternatives. So I tried to contact the board for some MTM's program what I can do for one of the pharmacies. They asked me if the pharmacy manager can submit that request, and he did. It was Trinity Pharmacy in Pomona, California. But the board did not approve that program as part of a learning experience and the hours that can be counted for my probation time. So I kept looking and looking and looking, and finally I was able to find a job in Irvine after that, after 7 months.
Okay, very well. Term number 16 of your probation required you to complete 10 hours of remedial education for each year of probation. Is it true, as stated, that you have completed years 1 and 2 of this term?
Yes, I did.
Have there been any problems in doing so?
No,
Okay,
I was happily doing it to learn more.
very well. Term number 17 requires you to complete an ethics course at your own expense before the end of the second year of probation. Did you complete this, in fact, complete this course on or about March 4th of 2022?
Correct, I did.
Lastly, term number 19 requires you to make a $10,000 donation to a nonprofit organization as listed in the stipulated settlement. Did you make that donation, in fact?
Yes, I did.
And was that donation made on September 16th, 2020?
Correct.
And that would be approximately 6 days after the effective date of your probation.
That's correct.
Mr. Armanius, what are your plans regarding possible ownership of a pharmacy if your probation is terminated early? Do you intend to open a pharmacy in the future?
If the board will grant me the opportunity, yes, I might be looking into opening a pharmacy. My whole passion has to do with helping people out. I do a lot of mission work, I do a lot of community services, and I feel like being a pharmacist that owns a pharmacy, it can help the congregation, help the people and all his patients in a way that they provide a good help with the quality of life. That can be such a great add-on to any pharmacist. And that brings a pleasure to me because all what I like to do is helping people.
Do you truly love the practice of pharmacy? Is that what you're telling us?
I do. I do love the practice of pharmacy. And above all, I learned not to have the same flaws and make the same mistake twice.
Are you remorseful for the errors that occurred in the past?
Of course I do.
Have you learned your lesson from this case?
I did learn so much from going through the motions of the probation and the probation program, and also the probation monitor that helped me so much to change the way I think and making sure I adhere 100% to all policies and procedures.
Very well. Your Honor, with that, I have no further questions for my client. I don't know if you would be willing to entertain the character witnesses in any particular order, but we're amenable to any order you'd like.
Well, what we would typically do is have Ms. Trauma ask your client some questions now and the board members, unless one of the witnesses has a pressing time concern in terms of needing to leave. But otherwise, it's just more logical to deal with your client's testimony first.
That should be fine, Your Honor. We'll hope that the character witnesses are able to stay online. If not, we'll proceed regardless.
I'm okay, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Abram. And Mr. Bishoy, do you have any particular concerns?
I'm here. No.
No concerns. Okay, perfect. Then we'll just go in the normal order of things. Ms. Trauma, do you have any questions for the petitioner?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
So the accusation was against both you and your pharmacy, is that correct?
Correct.
And you owned the pharmacy doing business as TMC number 4, is that correct?
Yes, correct, Ms. Chong.
Okay. And you were the pharmacist in charge there.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. In your own words, can you, well, strike that. The accusation alleged a billing fraud at your pharmacy. What is your understanding as to why you were charged with billing fraud?
I think it had to do with the computer software. And when the board inspector came into the pharmacy, she had to do a dispensing report on the spot, which she called the vendor, the software vendor, to get that report. But later on in the day, when I called them, they said that report is not too accurate. And they asked her to just wait few months, the inspector, before she can get that report that was very accurate. So I think it had to do with the software uh, vendor dispensing report issue. Plus, I never kept the inventory correctly in the pharmacy, so there was some records that was not available, and I wasn't able to retrieve them during the time that she was there, because of some of the invoices were not available at the pharmacy, like being retrievable for the audit during that time that she came in. And also, I had new employees. So at some point, said she found few prescriptions that passed day 14 that was not returned to stock. So I have a feeling that part of it too, when I gave them those prescriptions to be returned, they never do a good job in returning those medication back to stock.
So I wanted to ask you about that. The inspector found hundreds of prescriptions that were billed through insurance without ever having been dispensed. Do you have an explanation for that?
I don't think she found hundreds of prescriptions. According to the accusation, as far as I remember, it was around 17 or 18 prescriptions that she said she found duplicate for them, and some of them already were dispensed. And she had a signature, we had a signature log at the pharmacy, but the label was done twice.
Okay, I'm looking at paragraphs 47 and 48 of the accusation, where it indicates in 2016 there were a total of 91 prescriptions which were billed through insurance without ever having been dispensed. And then in 2017 there were a total of 194 prescriptions which were billed through insurance without ever having been dispensed. I was just wondering if you had an explanation for those charges.
So using digital RX, so she's talking about, I think she's referring to the computer system that never had any signature logs, but some of those prescriptions, when they are delivered, we have a manual signature. So she couldn't find a signature on the dispensing report for those prescriptions. But that doesn't mean those prescriptions was not dispensed. Those prescriptions could have been dispensed, but we had manual signature for them. Because according to her also, when she tried to reach out to 10 patients, she was only able to reach all of them, and one of them said she never had her prescription dispensed during that time. But the other 9 confirmed that those prescriptions were picked up as well. So I really don't see that this number can mean anything, because it just means there was no signature in the computer software. But technically, that doesn't mean that those prescriptions physically was not being picked up or dispensed to those patients. You see what I mean? Like, she never had a digital signatures for them, but that doesn't mean there was no manual signature for them.
Okay, so just so we're clear, were you processing prescriptions through the insurance and not reversing them when the patients didn't pick them up?
No, we do after 14 days, we do. But this is what I was referring to. When she came in, she found about, I think, 15 to 17 prescriptions that were billed, but not being reversed within 14 days window. So I did inspect that to find out why that happened. And even the inspector, she told me that as well. It could be because I had new employees, so they never had the right process of returning and reversing those prescriptions back to stock. But we dispensed thousands of prescriptions. So if she found only that number, that's an error that could have happened.
During the inspection, the inspector found blank prescription forms with physicians' names on them and physician signatures on the bottom. What's, if any, explanation do you have for that?
Yes, I do. I'm very honest, so I'll tell you exactly what happened. So basically, I had those blank prescriptions because what we used to do, we used to fill them out and give it to the doctor to sign it, because we were in the medical building. So let's say, as I told you, the patient is having, like, for example, some stomach pain, and they can't take naproxen or ibuprofen pills because that will upset their stomach. So we asked them, but we can do diclofenac gel, for example, or lidocaine that will numb the pain and not cause any stomach pain to that patient as well. So what we used to do, we will call the doctor and trying to ask them if it's okay to dispense this along because of the side effect that the patient could have from the meds. It's more of like medication counseling plus taking care of the patient, so they wouldn't have that many side effects and they would adhere more to the medications as well. To me, it was part of what I do to make sure they comply and they adhere to the meds. So when the board inspector came in, this was a prescription that we filled out to give it to the doctor to fill it electronically, to send it electronically after that.
Okay. And then just as to the seventh cause for discipline, the inspector had found based on our audit that there were pretty large overages of dangerous drugs. Do you have any explanation as to the overages?
I don't have any explanation to the overages at this point because I think more of the computer system did not track it correctly, and I never had all the inventory records on file as well. So that created sort of a problem. That's why moving forward, I will never do this again. I will use a software that I'm pretty sure they have the exact records. Because even when he did the dispensing report, like when Digital RX did the dispensing report after that, the person that she was talking to, the inspector, he provided a different report of the dispensing report that was not pretty similar to the one that she had initially, the inspector, when she first walked in. So there was some sort of a discrepancy. So I feel there's some glitch in the computer, plus the inventory was not too accurate. But I take responsibility for it because part of it is what I do, and I had to be more careful in making sure that everything that's been dispensed, billed and dispensed, all the inventory records on file, and the computer software checks everything correctly by doing like audits periodically to make sure I don't leave it for such a very long period of time and I figure out that much overages of medications.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. As a result of your accusation case, you agreed to a 5-year probation, correct?
That's correct.
And you were required to divest of all ownership in pharmacies, correct?
That's correct.
So did you divest and sell your pharmacy TMC number 4, or how did that happen?
Yes, I did sell TMC number 4 to Rite Aid. That was the closest pharmacy from my pharmacy.
Okay. And you ended up surrendering the pharmacy permit around the same time that you settled your case on your pharmacist license, correct?
That's correct, Ms. Trauma, yeah.
Okay. And as part of your stipulation, you were ordered to pay $38,970 in costs, correct?
That's the cost of the investigation, correct, yes.
Yes. And you've paid about $15,000 towards that. Does that sound right?
That's about right, Ms. Trauma.
Okay. And when do you plan to pay the rest of the costs off?
I think if the board will grant me to terminate the early termination of probation, I would be more than happy to take care of the costs.
I understand. In your petition, you indicated that you had learned so much from your probation monitor. How, if at all, has probation made you a better pharmacist?
Good question. Thank you so much for that question. Definitely, that's the most important thing, is how you learn from what you go through. And going through the probation, starting off from the time that the whole process started, it made you realize the guilt and the shame and the painful experience that you go through will definitely leave such a great impact on a person. In my case, I never expect anything like that could ever happen. And it was day in and day out job that you enjoy what you do. You enjoy helping people, you enjoying dispensing medications, talking to customers, building that relationship with them, and overall a better quality of life by adhering to the meds. So according to how I've seen it before, it's a package of knowing what to do, and you do it without even you realize how important to pay attention to very small details. And that's what happened in my case. As I move forward with the probation and I start to sit down with Dr. Sale and learn more from the root cause of the problem, I figured out, regardless of how much you have the same code of ethics at the Board of Pharmacy and patient safety is number one priority, you still have to pay attention to how you comply with everything. Even if you feel like you're not doing anything wrong, yet you're doing something that's not 100% right by not adhering to the laws, and be more careful and more cautious in what you do. So I learned to be more cautious. I learned to be more careful. I learned to comply to the laws 100% as we move forward. No deviation, even if you're a people person and you like to please people and you cannot say no to them, yet the pharmacy laws goes above everything. So even if you take pride in a pharmacy profession and what you do, you still need to make sure that you comply 100%, not to just make people happy, but to follow the law, because that's part of the responsibility that the board has on you. That was a great learning experience to me. So taking responsibility for everything that you do in the pharmacy 24/7, every moment that you're in. Taking responsibility of the training and making sure that the staff represent the board of pharmacy and represent the pharmacy and represent the pharmacist in charge. So having a team that will work together and you provide the best training to them and develop people that works for you, this will create some sort of making the pharmacy more professional, easy, less mistakes. We talk all the time about how can we be effective in what we do. And I think part of it is having learning experience, changing the mindset of everyone that works in a pharmacy to make sure they adhere 100% to all the laws. Working with some other pharmacists during those 2 years as well made me a better pharmacist, seeing different techniques, learning that the mistakes I had, that was my disciplinary actions, I can learn from and be a great pharmacist. So right now it's a matter of proving that to myself, regaining this confidence. I think it was a great experience. I grew so much with this, and I learned what not to do. Vulnerability was a part of emotional stress that make people do things. And in a pharmacy profession, unless you understand yourself more, and you know that if 5-6 things meet at the same time, you're more vulnerable to making mistakes. And that was part of what I learned, that you have to watch and know yourself more so they wouldn't fall in any mistakes. And part of it is adhering to the laws 100% and making sure they understand it. And in case you don't know, then you need to ask. So Ms. Sill was a great help. Mr. Brown, I will always go to person in the future to make sure if I have any question in regards to pharmacy laws, I have the enough help and the tools to succeed and follow it 100%.
Thank you for that. Now, you told your probation for about 7 months because you could not meet the work requirement. Is that right?
That's correct, Ms. Traumaya.
So you've been on probation for about 2 years, but 7 months of those 2 years have been told, correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay, and the original term that you agreed to was 5 years, right?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay, so explain to the board why you should have your probation terminated even though you aren't even halfway through your probationary term.
Well, thank you so much for that question. Well, here's the thing is, I can't find a job. I've been driving so much in finding a job. I drive each way like 2 hours. So going through the probation and going through all the motions of it and finding a job is very tough. So that's why I'm petitioning this, so I can at least get a job closer to home. And if I ever decided to open a pharmacy, I already have that much confidence that I would not repeat the same mistake twice. I did not do that on purpose. I tried to look for a job for those 7 months. So I was told for those 7 months, but I tried to work in terms of finding alternatives. I did some programs that were submitted to the board, MTM programs, and I tried my best to find a job. But it was during COVID, when COVID first started, and everybody was just not hiring no one. No one knew what's going to happen tomorrow. Pharmacists were very paranoid about having like social distancing and having 2 people close to each other. And that's what everybody said. So I could not find a job, but I tried my best. And even the first job I found, I never get paid for it. I was just hoping that I can work in MedLife Pharmacy so I can fulfill the board requirements and adhere to all the requirements of that probation terms and be able to comply with everything.
So is it safe to say that you think that if you terminate probation, you'll have more job opportunities available to you?
Of course I do, yeah.
Okay. If your petition is granted, will you immediately start taking steps to own a pharmacy again?
Yes, I might be looking into this.
Okay.
I'm in the process of getting married next month, so when I'm done with this, I'll think about it.
One thing at a time, right? Do you think you're ready now to be an owner of a pharmacy again?
I think I do. I think I learned so much. Yes, I think I learned so much over the past 2 years, and I discipline myself in a way too. So I will comply 100%. That mistake, I don't repeat the same mistake twice, and I learn from my mistakes. And it's okay sometimes to make mistakes, but to fix it and learn from it and move forward is the key. So I'm one of those people that proactively like to work on my flaws and make sure I will never repeat it twice.
Okay, and would you be the pharmacist in charge at that pharmacy, or would you employ someone else to be the pick?
I would be. I'm confident I can do it again, and I make the board proud of that.
Okay. So why should the board trust that you won't do the same things that happened before when you owned and managed a pharmacy if they terminate your probation now?
Because I've never done any incidents in the past over 15 years that will reveal any of such behavior, and it wasn't intentional. And I took all the time through my probation program that really works, or through the probation monitor, Dr. Sell, that spent so much time with me. Plus, I like to work on myself as well. So it was such an eye-opening experience and learning from it so many things that you will never repeat in the future. It wasn't intentional. It wasn't something that you do because you wanted to do anything wrong. So as far as someone coach you through it and walk you through the process and you know how you need to do it moving forward, definitely I'll adhere to that 100%, and I appreciate everyone who put the time and effort to teach me something new. So I don't want to do it with mistakes. I want to be proud of what I do because I enjoy what I do. So I don't want to have fears of not knowing what to do because I already put Dr. Sell and Mr. Brown to be there all the time to coach and counsel and be there if I have any questions. So I'm pretty confident I would never assume as we move forward, but on the contrary, I would just make sure I ask questions and do the right thing.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Trauma. All right, now we're going to the individual board members, and I'm going to go in reverse order from last time just to mix it up a little bit. Starting with you, Mr. Weiss, any questions for the petitioner?
Hi, yes, thank you, Your Honor. Hi, Mr. Armanius. Thank you for appearing before us here today. Can you just remind me, you are working now, correct?
Yes, Mr. Weiss.
Okay. But the commute is too long and your life would be better if you didn't have to drive so far.
Correct, yes, sir.
Okay, I understand. And you have not served half of your probation time, but you're ready to be a pharmacy owner and a PIC?
Well, according to my probation, I'm not supposed to own any pharmacy or be a PIC for the terms of the probation time. But because I feel I have more job opportunities, if the probation is terminated, I'll have more flexibility. And the only reason I'm not requesting this early, according to the stuff I learned, I just feel like I'm very confident I can do it and do it with no mistakes. So it's not something that I'm only doing it because it's closer to home or I can find a job closer to home, but I feel like I'm ready for that step. I can challenge myself and prove to the board I can do this. So in regards to 2 hours drive or in regards to owning a pharmacy, that's not my main concern now. My main concern is to learn and be able to do it with no mistakes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Weiss. Next, I have Ms. Koenig. Do you have any questions for the petitioner?
No questions on my end, and also appreciate that you say my name perfectly, my last name.
Oh, thank you so much. I try. Dr. Jha, any questions for the petitioner?
Yes, Your Honor. And my question is for Dr. Armanius. Thank you very much for going through the process as you have. There are two types of errors that we observe in the profession of pharmacy. One is transactional errors, and the other one is systemic error. That transactional error being, I didn't pay attention to something, it slipped and we dispensed something incorrectly, right? Topamax, Toprol, that kind of a thing. And there are systemic errors where there are number of prescriptions, number of billing events, number of um, uh, inventory events that are inconsistent with the process. So, what I read through and what I heard today tells me that there were a lot of systemic errors in the pharmacy that you manage. Now, you probably had a lot of time thinking about those things in past couple of years, and I it definitely came across that you have given a lot of thought to that. So, what have you done to equip yourself to make sure that you can eliminate the systemic errors from whatever future pharmacy you work at, manage, or own? How will you ensure in the future through your past experience and also that last couple of years' experience that equips you or you have gained knowledge to reduce the systemic errors in the profession you will be practiced in the future?
Okay. Thank you so much for that question. I really appreciate it. So that's such a great tool also of what I've been thinking of. As you just mentioned, the past 2 years, I've been thinking about that. And I wanted to see how can we prevent this from happening again in the future. So the whole idea is to learn from my mistakes and make sure that this will not happen again. So one of the things that I focused on more is the inventory, because that was the main concern for the board inspector as well, and the board of pharmacy. So what I wanted to acknowledge is I will hire an inventory specialist that I would run a report every week and making sure everything is compliant. Everything, numbers are adding up in the right way. So I reconcile all the invoices. I'll make sure I do inventory work, and I'll hire an inventory specialist that will make sure they match up. And anything that's not gonna match up, then I'll dig into it more and see how we can fix it. In regards to the computer error, if I did that and the computer was not adding up right, then I will change the software to something that's more discrete and something that's very accurate to make sure this will not happen again. So it's part of it is human and part of it is the software as well.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
No
Thank
problem.
you for your answer.
No problem. My pleasure.
That's all, Your Honor.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jha. Mr. De La Paz, any questions for the petitioner?
Yeah, so what I was hearing, is it your testimony that the billing fraud was due to software issues? Is that what I heard?
Part of it is software issues and failure to maintain current inventory records.
And did I hear correctly, or maybe correct me, were you the CFO of your business at the time?
Yes, I was.
And what type of reconciliation process did you have to manage your P&L?
Well, before I used to work for CVS, I never had a reconciliation process to track P&L. And that was part of the main issue that I had, that the pharmacy gotten busy very fast. So I never had a backup plan on how I need to reconcile and look into the P&L. So I was working more as a pharmacist that will take care, and the pharmacy manager, putting policies and procedures for the staff, but also I was hiring and I was taking care of ordering system as well. So it was a lot of things they have done at the same time that made the process not work very effectively.
So who managed your accounting practice for your business?
It wasn't managed, it was like PSAOs, you will deposit money and then you will order, and that was all electronically. So I never had a P&L knowing the profit margin or anything like that. No, that was not. I was working as a pharmacist more. So I was taking care of the patient more than anything. So no one really managed your questions.
As the business owner, sounded that way. Who managed then your tax returns? Because all of that information would need to be reported as well.
Okay, yeah, it was an accountant that a CPA that he was doing. He's been always doing my work, and his name is Shadi Toma. He is in Placentia.
Now, was the software used to export all of the financial records to your accountant, or how was that handled? As the CFO, I'm asking.
Oh, the way we do it is I used to have my computer. I would go print reports, and I would give it to him, plus all the invoices from the inventory company like McKesson or the ordering company. They will report that to him as well.
But is it, what I'm hearing, that there was no oversight over your business practice?
Like from the inventory standpoint, the companies that we order from, they will send the invoices. He will have access to all my bank accounts. He will go in, he will see everything.
No
So he
further
has
questions.
access to my bank accounts.
No further questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. De La Paz. Dr. Crowley, any questions for the petitioner?
Yes, I have a few questions, Your Honor. Thank you. So my first question is kind of a follow-up to the question about the blank prescription pads in the doctor's office. So you said they were kind of there in case there were medication changes, is that correct? And then you would have the doctors resend it electronically?
Yeah, correct.
Okay. I was a little confused because I thought you had said earlier that you would confirm the changes verbally, and that's why the doctor's offices didn't have them in their records.
Exactly, but that was very few cases where they found some of those prescriptions not on records. But for the most part, when the board inspector came into the pharmacy and she went through all the files with the clinic manager, she found all those prescriptions available. So.
Okay. And then I guess, because I noticed some of the prescriptions on there were for naproxen tablets. And you mentioned most of the prescriptions were topical pain medications that you had asked to change to because of stomach reasons. So I guess what was the explanation to changing to naproxen for those prescriptions?
Yeah, there was naproxen 500 and naproxen 550. So the one that's on those records is naproxen 550. Good question, thank you. And this is enteric coated, so that does not upset the stomach as much as naproxen would do. So if the patient would request something that wouldn't upset the stomach, we would go more with 550 because it upset the stomach less way than the non-steroidal anti-inflammatory medications.
Thank you. My next question is in regards to your CE credits. I noticed that there were 30 CE credits on June 1st, 2022. And then there were 19 credits from December 29th, 2020. Do you know, were all of the CE credits completed on those specific days? Like, did you do all 30 in one day?
I don't remember, but I can do it. If I stayed from morning to night doing it, yeah, I could do that. That's me, kind of, yeah.
Okay, thank you. And then my last question is in regards to your recommendation letters. Multiple authors obviously rave about you, and I think it's clear that you have a very supportive community around you. But a couple of them mentioned that they were shocked about the discipline, and at least one of them referred to the accusations as a misunderstanding. So I just wanted to ask you if you believed the accusations against you were a misunderstanding.
No, it was not at all. I learned from it. It was something to help me to slow down and learn from my mistakes, take a step back, look into it, see how I can improve as I move forward. So it helped me to grow, and it helped me to be a better pharmacist for sure.
Great. I don't have any further questions. Good luck. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Dr. Crowley. Mr. Chandler, any questions for the petitioner?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. So going through, you went line by line, and for each cause of discipline, kind of explaining each one, and kind of going off of the last question, for each cause of discipline, do you dispute any of these causes that you agreed to previously, or do you still believe each cause of discipline is valid and has a substantive basis?
I think you're right. I'll thank you so much for your question. I think it has part of it is true, and there was a reason, even if it was very minimal. It was a reason for the board inspector to see that. However, some other I disagree with because I was in that field on the bench, and I know it didn't work out that way. For example, the signature logs that she got from one of the patients said she never signed for it. I'm 100% sure because that patient was in the pharmacy every single day. She picked them up. And that was among the 10 that she called. That's the only person that said she never picked it up. The doctor that said they never prescribed those like dangerous drugs without a prescription, I would never do this. I would never dispense a prescription without the doctor's approving it.
So you're saying you no longer agree with the causes for some of the causes for discipline that you signed on to when you signed the stipulated settlement?
I say I agree based on the information that the board inspector received, but I don't think this incident specifically anything was done incorrectly. But regardless of the reason, I still learn from it and be more careful. Even if it's one single incident, I look into it to improve and be better.
On the fourth cause for discipline, this goes to you saying none of this was that this was all incidental and none of it was intentional. The fourth cause for discipline that you signed and agreed to said called for respondent pharmacy unprofessional conduct involving moral turpitude, dishonesty, fraud, deceit, or corruption, billing fraud. That by its very nature, as far as what you agreed to, indicates intention to deceive. And so I was wondering how your statement of saying this was not an intended accident versus what you agreed to saying was moral turpitude, fraud, deceit, or corruption, which by its nature is intention to deceive. I see a inconsistency there, and I'd like you to address that.
I'm sorry, can you repeat your question one more time?
Yeah, you said all of the violations that you went through were unintentional, that they were accidents, that they were process, that you didn't intend to do them. The fourth cause for discipline is unprofessional conduct involving moral turpitude, dishonesty, fraud, deceit, corruption. By its nature, those that cause for discipline demonstrates an intention to deceive, commit fraud, or be corrupt. And so you've said that these were unintentional, accidental, but you have signed and agreed to a cause for discipline that demonstrates an intention to deceive. And so I was hoping you could address that discrepancy for me.
Okay, thank you so much for repeating that question again. Yeah, it was not intentional. I never meant to do anything like that. The fact of the matter that there was a discrepancy between the invoices that were submitted versus the dispensing report from the computer system that made it sound like a deceit or dishonesty or moral tribute. But in reality, when she called the patient, the board inspector, when she came in and she called the patient, she was never able to reach anybody that said they never picked up their meds. And she tried tons of the patients, but they all got in their medications. So I think I agreed to this because it makes sense from the discrepancy in the number between the inventory and the dispensing report, but it was not intentional, no.
Those are all my questions, Your Honor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chandler. Ms. Cameron Banks, any questions for the petitioner?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you so much. Dr. Barker, any questions?
Hi, yes, thank you. First, I want to say congratulations on your upcoming marriage.
Thank you.
I'm sure that's a highlight. This probably follows up a little bit on some of the other questions, but you know, in some of your statements, you said, and I know we've kind of talked about this with others, but that the technician didn't do it correctly, didn't file correctly, or there's a glitch in the computer system. So, you know, these things can happen, but moving forward, if you were to be, you know, reinstated, if you had, you know, like a pharmacist has the responsibility of the oversight of like the technicians, and also, you know, should be engaged with what they're working with, as well as being the pick, the ultimate responsibility of ensuring that that processes are working correctly and that there's procedures and that people are adequately trained. So, so ultimately it is the pharmacist's responsibility and very ultimately the pick. So, it's like it just sounds like a little bit of a conflict there from what you're saying, from what those responsibilities at that time were, or moving forward, what you are hoping to do to own a pharmacy and to be the pick. So what would you do differently? And can you mention any type of auditing or QA processes that you might think about doing?
Thank you so much for your question. So it all has to do with the workflow and how the workstations and responsibilities or duties are being divided. So that's something I thought about too, to prevent this from happening again in the future. So moving forward, I'll make sure that I have enough staffing. I'll train them. I have a policies and procedures for training. I have some demo where they have to go through and fill out at home before they even start working in the pharmacy. So I'll make sure whoever steps in the pharmacy will know exactly what they are doing. And the second thing that I would do, I would divide the workstations, and each station will have its own responsibilities and duties. So you have a to-go-to person to see who made that mistake. So according to what needs to be done in the QA process is to make sure each technician will have a computer signed in under her name that you can go back and check everything. And if a mistake has been happened, you need to go and address it with her or with him and make sure that doesn't happen again. But because the computer system that I had never checked every single step and every single workstation, drop off, production, pickup, delivery, all like QA, all that stations by initials. So I'll make sure the initials are being put there, and I can always do a follow-up and check for the benefit of training and for the benefit of making everybody better in the pharmacy. I'll go and coach and counsel as needed.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't have any other questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Barker. And I noticed that you have your hand up, Mr. Abraham. Is there a concern? Did you know you had your hand up?
Nope, I apologize.
Oh, no problem. I just wanted to make sure. Thank you so much. All right. Let's see where we're at. Dr. Patel isn't here, so we are with you, Dr. Serpa. Any questions for the petitioner?
Yes, thank you. Mr. Armanius, I was a little confused with some of the responses you gave Ms. Trauma, and she was asking some specifics from your case, and your verbal answers didn't always match the records that we received. But I wanted to ask you specifically on one, and it goes back to those prescriptions that were found. You stated that they had some preliminary information and they were sent to the doctor to be signed, but yet in the information that was given to us, it said that those prescription forms bore the name of the physician written at the top and the physician's signature at the bottom, which seems to indicate they were pre-signed before any prescription information was added. And then there were a couple that had no patient name, just pre-signed. Can you explain that? Because that seems to be different than your answer.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Serpa. So basically, we like those forms, pre-printed forms, we use them to just, let's say we change the medication, like we call the doctor and the doctor said that's fine. So we keep this as a record for that doctor, so he would know that, because we would go back to the office, it's all in the same medical building. So we would go back and talk to the doctor about making sure this goes electronically in the system. So we have a record of what the doctor prescribed. So even when the board inspector walked into the pharmacy, she found this in new, like in a box that would say new medications to be to be dispensed to the doctor. So we never dispensed those medications till we get the electronic prescription. But we had records of them in the pharmacy, so we would know that that doctor said okay to this meds.
So that's what you said to Ms. Trauma, but that's not what I read in the record unless I'm reading the record incorrectly. It looks like they were blank prescriptions with no drugs written on them, but signed by the doctor in advance.
Excuse me, can I interrupt? May I interrupt, ma'am? I'm not
Sure.
sure what you're referring to specifically. Can you cite the record exactly
Sure.
so we can note what you're referring to?
It's number 35. Let's see if I find the beginning of it. It's in the background of the case on the original case record. I don't know what the correct term is.
Is that in the accusation, Dr. Serpa? Or
It's in the original accusation, I believe, if that's the correct term, where they go through the background and they explain what was found. And so this was just documentation of what was found, number 35. I don't have a page number. I said this looks like page 8 of one of the original accusations, perhaps.
Okay.
in paragraph 35, correct? Did you say?
If that is a numbering of paragraphs, I'm not sure. There's line numbers there also, 8 through 15.
Yes, typically those numbers on the pleadings, as we call them, they're paragraph numbers. So I'm thinking it's paragraph 35. Ms. Trauma, I see you nodding.
Yes, Your Honor, paragraph 35 on page 8 of the accusation. In the Bates labeled package, it would be AGO 42.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
So Dr. Serpa,
We understand where you are, Dr. Serpa, so we can answer your question. Thank you.
So I think the confusion comes from why did we have a pre-printed prescription with a signature, right?
No, well, it was, why did you have blank prescriptions with a signature?
Because this is what we use to let the doctor know that they prescribed this medication in case anything happened or it wasn't electronically sent. And to just explain this further down, it didn't mean anything because even after the board inspector went to check in all the pharmacy records with the medical advisor to make sure all those prescriptions has been filled out and written by those doctors, she found 99.9% of those prescriptions already electronically been sent. So if this was used in a very illegitimate use, she would have found so many prescriptions that had no electronic copy of them. So it was just the way that we do it to make sure that this already, the doctor said okay on the phone, because sometimes we would call the doctor and ask him if that's okay for us to dispense this medication to that patient based on the medical condition. So the doctor would say yes. So we know already that he said yes for this prescription because the signature was on it. But if we write a new prescription form for that doctor that he didn't, we still have to ask him, this will bear his signature for him to write on it. But either way, we waited for him to send it electronically or for her to send it electronically before we can dispense it. So it was just the way, I never knew I was gonna get in trouble. I never knew this would cause a problem. So it was just a way to track everything in an easy way because I didn't use it in any wrong like direction or procedures. I was just using it for my own records to just be able to tell which one the doctor said yes and which one the doctor did not say yes for.
Okay, thank you.
But to make that story very clear, because it can be very confusing, when the board inspector inspected everything, she found all those prescriptions are being electronically sent by the doctors. So even if you went into the whole package of the discovery, you're gonna see that she thought she's not gonna find electronic prescription for these. But in that discovery package, it said that she found many of those prescriptions sent electronically. So it was just a way to do it, but I didn't mean to do it in the wrong way.
I appreciate your answer. I guess I'm still confused because the blank prescription she found had no patient name and no drug name. So I don't know how she would be able to find them.
Sorry, Dr. Serpa. Yeah, because she found it that way because we don't know which prescription like according to the consultation with the patient, which one the patient will say, okay to contact the doctor to change it to a topical cream, for example. So we didn't know. So it was lacking the name of the patient and the birth date and the medication name because we didn't know what it's going to be for. But after we called the doctor, if the doctor said yes, I'll be asking him or one of my staff will ask him to send it electronically. But that's just by having this form, that's just, we know that that doctor said okay to dispense it. So in case he did not send it by the end of the day, we'll go follow up with him. Hey, doctor, you approved this one according to our phone conversation at this time. Can you please make sure that you send it electronically? But let's say if there was nothing on it, it was a blank new form, total blank. This is when we go back and tell them, can you please see if that's okay to be approved? So that we use it for different reasons. If that like based on what we will go and tell the doctor or what we would do.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Serpa. Dr. O, do you have any questions for the petitioner?
Your Honor, yes, I do. A lot of them is being asked by a fellow board member, but just glad you have a lawyer present because I'm actually not sure if I can ask this question, but I'm just curious. How did you close a pharmacy? Like, was it sold somewhere else? And how busy was your pharmacy at that point?
I'm sorry, can you repeat your question one more time?
Let's just start with how busy was your pharmacy? How many prescriptions were you doing at your pharmacy?
Good question. So basically, when I took over this pharmacy, it was doing like 30, 35 prescriptions a day on a max. I have a good relationship because with a patient, I love what I do. I have passion for that job. I love to help people out. So in a matter of a year and a half, it was up to like 500 prescriptions. And it's all from inside the medical building, word of mouth. People can see the difference by coming to that pharmacy versus any other pharmacy by the service that we provide. So we always have a happy staff that's willing.
500 prescriptions a day.
A day.
Okay.
So even if according to the question being asked, so if the board inspector came in and she found 10 prescriptions that had no prescription for them, that's not a legit number compared to filling 500 prescriptions a day. So it's like 3,000 prescriptions a week. And she found only among 2 years time frame, only 10 prescriptions that had no records for. There was tons and tons of prescriptions.
Were you the only pharmacist?
I was the only pharmacist, and I had a helper that will come in when I need someone to be off, when I wanted a day off, yes.
And after this happened, how did you close the pharmacy? Did you sell the prescription files? How did it resolve?
Okay, thank you. It was a shock for me. I never expect this to ever happen. So when you don't know and you have fears sometimes and you don't know what can happen, the attorney advised me I cannot be in the pharmacy because I'll make mistakes, and last thing I want is to make mistakes. So like quickly enough, I just had to like it wasn't let me be very honest. So before that, when the pharmacy used to do 500, it gets so busy and I wasn't having a work-life balance. It was kind of messed up, and I was working almost most of the time because, as I stated, I never had enough help, and that's a lot of prescriptions needs to be filled. So I would have the staff stay more till we cover everything because customer service is my number one priority. And I wouldn't be willing to, I take pride in what I do, and it's an insult if the patient want to be transferred out because I'm not doing a good job. If they want to transfer out, but I do the best I can, I would definitely understand this. But if it's because I don't have enough help, then I would stay longer to do this. So before even the inspection came in, I already asked, like Rite Aid approached me. It's the next pharmacy. It's within 1 mile away from me. They approached me if I want to sell. So I wanted to get a quote and see how this can work. And I didn't start the process effectively. I just wanted to get some information in regards to selling files. And after that inspection happened, according to the attorney, he's like, I was paranoid because I never expect anything like this can happen. I wasn't doing anything intentional. And it just, the whole life completely changed, and the experience just been so painful in a way that you don't know what to do. So in that process where you don't know what to do and the attorney tell you don't be in the pharmacy so you would make mistakes, the easy way out is just to contact Rite Aid again or continue with the process. So if you look even at the records, and even when the inspector came in, I showed her the email from Rite Aid, so she would know I was not gonna sell because of the incidents. It's already been in the, they contacted me, and I agreed to contact them because it was messing up my work-life balance. I was looking so much.
So did you sell the file to Rite Aid?
I did sell the file to Rite Aid.
Okay. And your attorney's there, so please, I'm sure there's contractual confidentiality, but at what sale range were you able to sell the files for? About what amount?
President O, let me just state for the record, I was not counsel on that transaction, so I'm not privy to all the details. I want to make sure that's clear for the record. Go ahead.
Okay.
Sir.
Like what price range? It was.
You don't have to give detailed exact amount.
It was definitely way less than the volume. But again, I'm not doing this because of the money. I'm doing this because I take pride in what I do. I love what I do. And because I got that fear, if I felt like I'm not going to give and be that great pharmacist that will provide service and will take pride in what he does, then I would not continue to do it. So the driving factor was not the financial factor. It was the customer service and helping people factor more than anything.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I understand. I appreciate you coming here and thank you for your time and appreciate it. Good luck.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. O. Let me make sure, any other questions by board members that occurred to you since the other board members' questions, please raise your hand. I don't see any raised hands. So Ms. Trauma, anything else from you?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Brown, do you have any brief redirect for your client or are you satisfied?
No, I'm satisfied, Your Honor. I'd like to, if it's set, we'll proceed to the character witnesses if possible.
No, that's perfectly fine. Which one would you like to call first?
We would call Bishoy Bakhtar, registered pharmacist, please.
All right, Dr. Bakhtar.
Hello.
Hi. Do you intend to have your camera turned on or just testify by audio?
Whatever you like. I turned it on.
There we go. We can see you and I can hear you. Thank you so much. Can you please raise your right hand and I'll swear you in?
Oh, my right hand right here.
There we go. Do you solemnly state under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you so much. And now could you please state and spell your full name for the record, please?
Bishoy Roshdi Bakhtar.
And spell it for us, please.
Bishoy. Middle name Roshdi, Roshdy. Last name is Bakhtar, Boctor.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bakhtar. So I'm going to have Mr. Brown ask you some questions, and then we'll see if Ms. Trauma has some questions or any of the board members. All right, Mr. Brown, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Dr. Bakhtar. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Great. We appreciate you being here today. What do you do for a living, sir?
I'm a pharmacist.
And may I ask, where are you currently working as a pharmacist?
Yes, LA Care Pharmacy in Glendale.
Are you licensed outside of California?
No.
Okay. And how long have you been a pharmacist, sir?
Since March 10, 2021.
Okay. And do you know this nice-looking gentleman to my right here?
Yes, he's about to get married January 8th. Join the marriage club.
I take it you've known him for some time.
Yes.
How long is that, sir?
I want to say 7 years. 2015.
And where did you first meet Mr. Armanius?
We were going with the San Maurice Church with a youth group to feed the homeless.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that event?
Yeah, absolutely. So around Thanksgiving, the church hold like a group gathering from the youth, and they they go and they try to feed the homeless, and then we'll also give them hygiene packages, and we try to ask like what needs do they want, and we try to fulfill.
And Mr. Armanius, you said, was present during that?
That was the first time I met him there.
Okay. And would you say that your friends, your relationship is one of friends?
Yes, of course. He's a great friend. Yes. Yes, go ahead.
Excuse me, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Please finish.
Oh yeah, he's a great friend. Always with us in church, church meetings. great friend.
And are you aware of the underlying accusation in this case that was filed
Yes.
against?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and have you read that accusation?
Yes, I did.
And are you aware of the stipulated settlement that Mr. Armanius signed with counsel in 2020?
Yes, I am.
Okay, and have you reviewed that document?
Yes, I did.
Okay, when did you last review that document, sir?
Yesterday.
Okay, so you have is it fair to say you have a very recent memory of this document? You understood it?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Is any part of those documents that we've just mentioned, is any part unclear to you?
No, nothing is not, everything is clear.
And having read those documents, you understand that Mr. Armanius is here to request termination of his probation, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay, and you understand that he's on 5 years of probation effective, I believe, September 20th of 2020, September 10th, excuse me, 2020, correct?
Correct.
And with regard to Mr. Armanius, how would you describe his character as his friend?
He's very, very friendly, very genuine. If you ask him for anything, he would always give all the information he have. He has always been there. If you ask him about anything, you call him up, say, hey, I have a question about this. I need help with this. He helped me out after my mom passed away. I was going through Great Depression. My mom was a cancer patient for 19 years. She passed away in 2015. So after that, he was there 2016 when I was really, really depressed. He helped me out a lot.
And I believe in your letter, you may have mentioned that he was one of the first to contact you after your loss.
Yes.
Okay. And would you consider Mr. Armanius a truthful, honest individual?
Oh, yes, of course.
And is that based on your personal knowledge interacting with him over the years?
Yes.
When did you last see Mr. Armanius in a social capacity?
We were eating sushi together a couple weeks ago, and he was also, trying to introduce us to his fiance, Olivia.
And you will be attending his wedding, is that correct?
Yes, January 8th, yes.
Excellent. And so, Dr. Bakhter, knowing what you know and based on your experience with Mr. Armanius, would you have any problem, and this is a hypothetical, with Mr. Armanius filling a prescription for you or your family? Would you have any hesitation to allow that to happen?
Not at all.
And do you consider him a good pharmacist?
I do.
Do you feel that he's learned his lesson from this ordeal that he has been through?
Yes, very much so.
Has Mr. Armanius discussed his feelings about this matter with you?
Discuss the feelings?
Yes.
He said that he feels bad, and he feels like he just like how he said it was a shock to him, and he would never do any of this stuff again.
Do you believe him?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. I have no further questions. Thank you, Dr. Bakhter.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. And Ms. Trauma, do you have any questions for Dr. Bakhter?
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Have you ever worked with petitioner in a pharmacy setting?
Me? No.
Never?
Never.
Okay. And you said you had reviewed the decision and the probation agreement yesterday. Was that the first time that you had read them?
In details, yes, of course.
Okay. Prior to that, what, if anything, did petitioner tell you as to why he was disciplined?
I know that he was disciplined by the Board of Pharmacy, but in details, no.
He never provided any details about why he had been disciplined?
No, not all that details until yesterday, until I read them.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much. Dr. O, would you like me to go board member by board member, or will it suffice if I just ask who would like their hands up just in the
Could
interest
do
of
that.
time?
That would be great in the interest of time. Thank you.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm just being mindful of time. So any board members who has questions, could you put the raise hand button for me? All right, I see one. Let me just make sure. So far, I just have Mr. Chandler. So Mr. Chandler, why don't you proceed if there's any questions? Thank you.
Thanks, Your Honor. Just out of this kind of more of a point of order, given the time restriction and given that we have letters from both witnesses, I didn't know if it was necessary to do the full interview for each of them, or since they both have submitted letters, whether that would be sufficient so we can move to closed session. It was apologies if this is a out of the ordinary request.
No, I certainly understand we have the interest of time, but we don't ever want to create a record where we didn't consider all the evidence. And since he has two witnesses, I'm going to allow him to present the oral testimony, but we're going to keep it on the brief side. I think Mr. Brown's aware of that. So, but thank you. I understand your concern, Board Member Chandler, but again, we just want to make sure someone is entitled to present oral witnesses if they want to. So, all right, any other board member questions for this witness? Okay, I don't see any hands raised. So are you satisfied, Mr. Brown, with this witness? Can the witness be excused?
Your Honor, if I may, one question on redirect, if I may.
Sure, briefly.
Thank you, very briefly. Dr. Bakhter, having read the accusation and stipulated settlement, which you indicated you read yesterday, does that change your testimony in any way whatsoever regarding your opinion of Mr. Armanius' character?
No, not at all.
Thank you, nothing further.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate your time, Dr. Bakhter, and you're welcome to stay on as any member of the public, but you're excused as a witness. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, your next and last witness, Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Your Honor. I will keep this very brief as well with respect to the time situation. We would call Anthony Abraham, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Abraham, I think I can see you. Can you still hear me clearly?
Yes.
All right, I'll swear you in. Do you solemnly state, under penalty of perjury, that the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you so much. Can you please state and spell your full name for the record?
Anthony Abraham, ANTHONY ABRAHAM.
Thank you, Mr. Abraham. Your witness, Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Mr. Abraham, and thank you for being here.
Yes, sir.
How long have you known, let me back up. Do you know Mr. Armanius?
Yes, sir.
In what capacity? How do you know him?
I met Mr. Armanius in 2010 upon his return from a mission trip with a mutual friend of ours.
And was that mission trip conducted through a church or religious organization?
Yes, sir. That was a church trip for also St. Maurice Coptic Orthodox Church. It was a mission trip to Kenya for a few weeks. Our mutual friend, Michael, had told me he met someone there, and he was a cool person. So I came to meet him, and we hung out there for the first time. That's when I first got to know him.
So you're a friend of Mr. Armanius, correct?
Yes, sir.
Have you remained friends from 2010 to date, approximately 12 years?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And are you aware, let me strike that question. Have you read the underlying accusation in this case?
Yes, sir.
And have you read the stipulated settlement setting forth various probationary terms in this case?
Yes, sir.
Do you understand both of those documents?
Yes, sir.
When did you first review those documents?
Yesterday night.
Okay. And
again this morning.
Thank you. Having read those documents, would you have any objection to Mr. Armanius filling a prescription for you or your family?
No, sir.
Do you believe that Mr. Armanius is a truthful individual?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Why do you say that, sir?
I have multiple dealings with him over the years in various situations that were ranging from the meaningless to extremely serious. When I've asked things of him, he's delivered. Most recently, my mother-in-law was in grave need of some assistance, and Mr. Armanius didn't hesitate when I asked him to explain to him the situation to provide some assistance to her. And so this is one of those things that's just par for the course with his character. So over the years, even times that we've hung out, we've discussed a multitude of subjects. And so when we've made agreements or had differences on things, I've come over to make sure I've spent multiple nights at his house. We've gone to many different trips together. We've traveled together, been to different countries together, and so I've entrusted him with a lot on my personal side, and have never been shortchanged.
Have you ever, thank you, have you ever discussed Mr. Armanius's love of pharmacy with him in the past?
Yes, absolutely. He's expressed to me several times that his passion is to provide the greatest of care for his patients. Even when I've texted him and asked him informally about things in my family. My parents both suffer from different diseases, so I've asked him to advise on certain things, and he's always been ready to provide that that guidance, with the underlying love for his friends being number one. So yeah.
Do you consider him a giving person?
Most definitely. Absolutely.
And did he seek any compensation in return for help assisting you or giving you advice?
Never.
Okay.
Even when I've offered, he's rejected. So it's for love of the game.
Thank you very much. I have nothing further.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. All right, let me see. Ms. Trauma, any questions for this witness?
No, Your Honor.
All right, and what about any board members? If you do, please raise your hand. All right, I don't see any questions from the board members. Thank you very much, Mr. Abraham, for being here today. You're welcome to stay for the short remainder of the rest of the open session if you wish, but you're excused as a witness. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Brown, any additional evidence we haven't talked about?
No, Your Honor. We will submit on the record so far.
All right. Thank you so much. And anything else from you, Ms. Trauma, just to make sure?
No, Your Honor, nothing from me.
All right. Thank you very, very much. At this time, then, that concludes the petition hearing in this matter. The record is closed. The case is submitted for decision, and we are off the record in this matter. All right, President O, I'll turn it over to you as to how you want to proceed next. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Appreciate it. And thank you to all the members. We're now, as indicated on the agenda, the board will move into closed session for the stated purposes indicated on the agenda. Before doing so, I would like to request that Board Counsel Eileen Smiley provide a brief announcement related to closed session matters. Eileen?
Thank you, President O. This is Eileen Smiley, Board Counsel. I just wanted to make an announcement pursuant to Government Code Section 11126.3, Subdivision A. In addition to the closed session items listed on the agenda, the board will also be meeting to discuss a recent case entitled Absolute Pharmacy, LLC, doing business as Absolute Pharmacy, and Andreas Dieter Detloff versus California State Board of Pharmacy and Ann Sodergren, filed in Los Angeles Superior Court, case number 22 STCP 04253. Thank you.
Thank you, Eileen. Thank you, Ms. Smiley. As the board transitions to closed session, I'd like to announce that due to technological limitations, adjournment for the day will not be broadcast. Adjournment for the day will immediately follow closed session, and there will be no other items of business discussed. Members of the public, thank you for joining the meeting today. Members will be in closed session.